Good evening, everyone. The time is 7:37. I'd like to call this meeting to order. This meeting is being recorded. And Councilwoman Jones, would you mind doing an invocation, please?
Sure. Our eternal God, our Father, we thank you so much for this day. We thank you, Lord, because you're a great God and an awesome God and a mighty God. Father, we ask you to come into this meeting now. Give us clarity, give us discernment, give us understanding, and give us wisdom as we do the business of the city of Glenarden. Father, we pray a special prayer over all of our citizens, over the leaders of this community, Lord. We ask you to bless each and every one of them. Father, right now, as we're dealing with a situation in the community where someone's home is being engulfed in flames, we ask you, Father, in Jesus' name, to meet every need of that family, oh God, every need that they have, Father. We ask you supernaturally to meet every need, Lord. It is in Jesus' name that we pray and say amen.
Amen. To roll call. Councilwoman Fareed.
Here.
Councilwoman Guillaume.
Here.
Councilman Hairston.
Here.
Councilman Herring.
Here.
Councilwoman Jones.
Here.
Vice President Ferguson.
Here.
Council President Curtis is here. Have a quorum. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
So
Second.
Moved by Councilman Jones, second by Councilwoman Fareed. Any discussion? Okay. Councilwoman Fareed.
Yes.
Councilwoman Guillaume.
Yes.
Councilman Hairston.
Yes.
Councilman Herring.
Yes.
Councilwoman Jones.
yes.
Vice President Ferguson.
Yes.
And President Curtis is a yes. The agenda has been adopted, and we'll go with the first one up. The meeting minutes. As we went over in our work session, council members had an opportunity to review meeting minutes from November the 7th, November the 15th, November 29th, and December the 5th. Is there a motion to accept these meeting minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All right. Councilwoman Fareed.
Yes.
Councilwoman Guillaume.
Yes.
Councilwoman Hairston.
Yes.
Councilman Herring.
Yes.
Councilwoman Jones.
Yes.
Vice President Ferguson.
Yes.
And Council President Curtis is a yes. These meetings have been adopted. Okay. Now moving on to legislation. First up is ordinance O-03 -2023, sponsored by Councilman Herring. Public hearing was held on October 11th. This is the first. Oh, it's not the first reading, but it is being read again on this regular meeting, January 23rd, 2023. An ordinance to amend 149-22.1 commercial vehicle parking restrictions. Whereas the city of Glenarden is a municipal corporation of the state of Maryland and operated under Article 11E of the Constitution of Maryland and 5-202 of the Annotated Code of Maryland as amended, and whereas Article 7, 149-14 provides entitled parking regulations providing for restriction on parking commercial vehicles upon residential property, and whereas the City of Glenarden Code, Chapter 149, is intended to give provisions that are in addition and supplementary to the provisions of Maryland Vehicle Law Titles 11 through 27 of the Transportation Article of the Annotated Code of Maryland as amended and in accordance with the authorities specifically granted by such law, and whereas under general provisions of Chapter 149, 149-4, violations and penalties, the Glenarden Code states violation of any provision of this chapter or any supplement thereto shall be deemed a municipal infraction and shall be punishable as provided in 1-20B of this code. Now, therefore, be it ordained by the City Council of Glenarden, Maryland, sitting in regular session this 23rd day of January, that 1. Article 3, Chapter 149-22.1, commercial vehicle parking restrictions be and is hereby amended to read as follows. No person shall park any commercial equipment or other tractor, trailer, or tractor-trailer combination upon any public or residential property except for the purpose of making local deliveries to said property. B. No person shall park any commercial equipment or other tractor, trailer, or tractor-trailer combination having a gross weight in excess of 1.5 tons upon any commercial property unless the vehicle is registered in the name of the property owner and used in the identified business of the property owner. And C, a violation of any provision of said article shall be cited as a municipal infraction, subject to a fine of $200 payable to the municipality by the person charged in the citation within 20 calendar days of the summons. Be it further resolved and ordained by the City Council of Glenarden, Maryland, that this ordinance is and shall become effective 20 days following approval by the mayor or passage of council over the mayor's veto. Is there a motion to bring this ordinance to the floor for a vote?
So move.
Is there a moved by Councilman Herring? Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Hairston. Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. President.
Councilman Herring.
Yes, and I just want to give some more background on this piece of legislation. Again, I'm bringing it to try to alleviate some of the parking issues throughout the city. A lot of commercial vehicles are in the city. We continue to, we have an ordinance on the books, but for some reason the courts refuse to accept the fact that we are a municipality and that we can make our rules and make rules and laws that would best benefit our community, and they keep on referring back to the state and what a commercial vehicle is and all of that. So that's why some of these things get thrown out of court. I'd rather move it, like a lot of the municipalities are moving it to commercial equipment, which means that the judge doesn't have to consider the weight of a vehicle when it comes down to commercial equipment, because we do have a lot of commercial vehicles that I see sitting around throughout the community constantly. Not all of them aren't signed. You have a lot of pickups with commercial equipment on it, sitting on the street. It just sits there all weekend long, or sits there all week, or is in and out of the city, but they sit there all weekend long when they come in. One resident has a big trailer in their driveway and a commercial vehicle right next to that, and they park all their cars on the street. And it's a serious issue. Being in Ward 1 with a lot of seniors in there, I've seen the number of times an ambulance had to come down the street and park in the middle of the street to get a senior out of their home during an emergency. I've seen where fire trucks had to maneuver their way through these streets because there's so many people parked on both sides of the streets, and a lot of these vehicles, again, are pickup trucks and commercial vehicles. They're not supposed to be in the driveways. I do want to read something that I found very interesting, and I want to read this right quick. And this passage is from, I'll read it first. It says, except as herein elsewhere provided, no junk vehicle larger than a 3/4 ton truck and or more than 2 axles and not to exceed 4 wheels, house trailer, motorhome, camper, vehicle with commercial lettering and signs, not including vehicles of a government agency, boat or other similar machinery or equipment of any kind or character, except for such equipment and machinery as may be reasonable, customary, and usual in connection with the use and maintenance of any dwelling, and except for such equipment and machinery as the association may require in connection with the maintenance and operation of the common area, shall be kept upon the property, including the public streets within the community, driveways, common areas, and dwelling units, nor, except in a bona fide emergency, shall the repair or extraordinary maintenance of automobiles or other vehicles be carried out thereon. The association may, in discretion of the Covenants Committee, promulgate such additional rules and regulations in this regard as it deems necessary or desirable. And basically, that's from the covenants from the Woodmore Town Center for the HOA. So their HOA does not even allow commercial vehicles on their property in the HOA. And it's even stricter than ours because it even says, any vehicles that even have lettering on it is considered commercial vehicles. That's already in place over in Woodmore. We don't have it in place in my ward, in Wards 2 and existing Glenarden. And I think it's sorely needed because, again, the streets are being filled. People are storing vehicles in their driveways and putting cars on the streets, and it's not fair when, again, seniors are saying they can have visitors come to their house, or they have to park a block away and walk all the way up the block to come to their house. My thing is this, and I'm not trying to, affect anybody's livelihood, but the cost of doing business is the cost of doing business. I know it was mentioned about Councilwoman Smallwood's father having a business, and talked to her, and she said her father had to pay, to park outside the city because it wasn't allowed in the city back then, and that was 30, 40, 50 years ago almost. So, this isn't nothing new. There's a quality of life that we need to guarantee our citizens, and being able to come and go in your house, come and go on your property, and being able to have people come visit you, caregivers or somebody come visit you, is our responsibility as council members. Like I said, I've seen seniors who, or seniors who have adult daycare. The bus can't pull up in front of their house to pick them up. They got to park in the middle of the street. You got to roll the senior all the way out to that bus to get their day, to pick them up, to take them to where they need to go. And it isn't fair. Especially when you got people who just have 4 cars parked on the street in commercial vehicles in the driveway. I saw one house on Fisk that has 3 commercial vehicles in the driveway and probably about 4 cars on the street. Add to that, people are renting rooms, and that makes the problems even worse. And the people deserve some relief. And I don't think it's fair for us to sit here and just look at a few people who may have commercial vehicles and say, okay, we're gonna look after your well-being, while we got probably 5, 6, 7, 6,000 other people in this community that we have to look out for also. They deserve the same quality of life that anybody else get. Again, like I said before, when I was coming up, you didn't park in front of somebody else's house. You didn't park in front of their driveway. People nowadays, they don't care. They're like, it's a public street, I'm going to park where I want to park. And they've told me that to my face, until somebody comes and park in front of their house, then it's an issue. So I'm just thinking that this legislation is sorely needed. Other municipalities are doing the exact same thing. I talked to Robin Bailey Wall. She said Capitol Heights has done the same thing, and I know other ones have done the same exact thing, moved it to commercial equipment. Because again, this parking is out of control in the city, and storing vehicles in the city is another issue. And we got to do something about it. Our seniors need some relief. And to sit there and look at 1 or 2, 3 people, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 people. Again, one thing I learned when I first got on this council is that you don't vote based on 4 or 5 people. You vote on, if you don't hear from 10% of the people, then you need to vote what's best for the greater good. So that's my feeling. Like I said, again, this legislation is already in place in Woodmore for the HOA. I just wanted it for the rest of the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Herring. Any other discussion? All right. With that, we'll go on with the vote. Councilwoman Fareed.
Thank you, Council President, and thank you, Councilman Herring, for your comments.
Closer, please.
Closer?
Yes.
Is this better?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you, Councilman Herring, for your comments. I think you're exactly right with, in terms of the quality of life and parking on the streets and the proliferation of vehicles. I do, however, think that that can be addressed through the other resolution that I've co-sponsored with you regarding street parking. While I do not believe that this particular ordinance has discriminatory intent, I think when being applied, it will have discriminatory impact against small business owners. Small business is the backbone of our country and our city, and I think that we can find other ways to manage the commercial vehicles without restricting them altogether. And I hope we can find a way to do that in the future. If this does not pass, with that, my vote is no.
Councilwoman Guillaume.
Thank you, Council President, and also thank you, Councilman Herring, for what you shared. In the interest of time, I think everyone already kind of should know where my position is on this as far as looking for a compromise, and I also agree with what my colleague, Councilwoman Fareed, shared, so my vote is no.
Councilman Hairston.
Yes.
Councilman Herring.
Let me just say, there is nothing discriminatory about this legislation when it deals with small businesses, because again, this is a residential neighborhood. It's not a commercial district. If you have a small business, you really need to be registered with the city of Glenarden. So that's another issue that we need to look at. So I'm just saying, again, citizens need relief, and I'm going to bring the legislation that I feel will give them the relief that they're entitled to as citizens in this community. Again, I cannot with a good conscience vote for a small minority of people who are going to be affected when a greater good is being affected. That's not logical, but so I'm going to vote yes.
Thank you. Councilwoman Jones.
To my esteemed colleagues, I heard all of your sides. I've listened to what our police chief, Chief Bryant, has brought forth. I had asked earlier at the public hearing if he would do a drive around with the officers to see just how many commercial vehicles are really in the city. They may be commercial vehicles by the labeling of them, but we need a piece of legislation that's going to be able to impact what's going on. Because once we go to the court system, we don't have a court system in the city of Glenarden. Prince George's County, they go to Prince George's County and the judge deems it differently. I think that what needs to happen is we need to sit down with different municipalities and find out how they're really handling this. We need to talk to the judicial system to see where we're lacking in the legislation to have these things done. And I don't see this piece of legislation doing any of that. Like I said, when we first moved to Glenarden in 1964, my family, most of the people here were government workers or school teachers and the like, people that worked at the post office. So we didn't have a lot of vehicles, pickup trucks. Everybody had mostly cars. Everybody didn't have pickup trucks. Now the city has evolved into a place where we have tradesmen that live in the city, and they have pickup trucks that are not necessarily commercial. They have different trucks, different types of trucks that are not necessarily commercial because the county does not deem them to be commercial. I believe that this piece of legislation needs to be more impactful if what you're trying to do, you want to bring resolution to what you're trying to do. Also, we need to look at the small businesses, if we have any in the city, that need to be addressed because there's codes against that. We need to look at the renter issue, if there's a renter issue, and address that. So with that, my vote is no.
Vice President Ferguson. Can you say that again, please?
No.
Council President Curtis, I will say that I have heard all sides to this. I'm on the other side of this, Councilman Herron. I haven't heard from as many people as you have, and I don't doubt that you've heard from a lot of people. But as you've heard from a lot of people, I've heard more on the opposite side of the aisle, speaking of their livelihood and how it'll be affected if this piece of legislation did pass. At the same time, I also am sympathetic to the plight of those on those particular streets who have to deal with parking issues. I do not think that it's fair if people are subletting their homes and 4 or 5 people are staying in their homes and each of them have a work vehicle and a personal vehicle. I do think that there's a common ground that can be reached here. We just haven't reached it yet. And so with that, I am going to abstain from this vote.
Mr. President, before you call a vote, so I will change my vote to no so that I can bring it back, because I will be bringing it back. Again, like I said, I think it's really strange that people tend to lean more toward commercial than our residents. Again, if this is already enforced over in one subdivision, I don't know why it isn't being enforced in the rest of the subdivision. But let me just say this, because the law is already on the books for commercial equipment. And I am going to ask that it be enforced as it is. And if I got to go around and find out what they consider a commercial vehicle is and point them out, and I will. Because, again, Chief O'Donnell had no problem addressing these issues. And a lot of the vehicles were taken out of the city. So, and what I am really tired of is somebody saying that this isn't a commercial vehicle and this isn't a commercial vehicle when it is a commercial vehicle. So the law is still on the books. I'm just trying to make it much easier for us to get through the court system without having to go through all this rigmarole and have things thrown back. Again, I've been in Glenarden all my life. I've seen what the people have to deal with. I've seen it when it was not congested. I've seen it when it was congested. And I'm going to always wait on the side of the citizens. I'm sorry, I can't wait on the side of commercial businesses. You know, unfortunately, again, if you run a business, that's the price of doing business is your overhead. If you got to park it outside somewhere, you got to park it outside. My brother had too. He had to park him outside the city. He paid to park him outside the city. You know, other people I know has paid to park them outside the city. You know, I know somebody else who was reported on and they had their truck taken out of their backyard, had to get their truck out of their backyard. You know, so I'm not understanding again why all of a sudden now that the more concern is out there for these people who are running businesses who are basically making a profit off the city, but yet they can't pay for their overhead to put their vehicles wherever they need to put it outside the city and allowing our citizens to have somewhere to park. So I'm going to change my vote to no, and I will probably be having it on the agenda for the next 3 years. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilman Herron. There are 5 noes, 1 yes, 1 abstain. This does not pass. All right, next up is an ordinance to amend Chapter 15 Ethics, O-05-2023. Councilman Jones.
Okay. Ordinance number 2023, sponsor Council President Curtis, Council Vice President Ferguson, Council members Erica Fareed, Kathleen Guillaume, Maurice Harrison, James Herring, and Robin Jones. Session, public hearing was January 17th, 2023. Regular session, January 23rd, 2023, first reading. Date of introduction, regular session, February 20th, 2023, second reading. An ordinance to amend Chapter 16, Ethics. Whereas the City of Glenarden is a municipal corporation of the state of Maryland, and whereas Maryland's Code, Section 5801 of the General Provisions Article requires municipal corporations to enact ethics laws and requires that the State Ethics Commission approves all municipal ethics ordinances. And whereas the Maryland General Assembly enacted House Bill 363 and House Bill 1058 during the 2021 legislative session, which added new laws to the Maryland public ethics laws and requires local governments to incorporate certain changes into their respective ethics ordinances. And whereas the City Council finds it necessary and in the public interest to amend Chapter 16 to comply with the state-mandated ethics code's requirements. Now, therefore, be it ordained by the City Council of Glenarden, Maryland, sitting in regular session on this 20th day of, that's in February, is when that'll happen, because this is the first reading again. That 1, Chapter 16, Section 16-4, definitions, be and is hereby amended to read as follows. Section 16-4, definitions. In this chapter, the following terms have the meanings indicated. Quasi-governmental entity, an entity that is created by the state statute that performs a public function and that is supported in whole or in part by the state, but is managed privately. 2, Chapter 16, Section 16-6, conflicts of interest, be it and is hereby amended to read as follows. Section 16-6, conflicts of interest, solicitation and acceptance of gifts. 3, an official or employee may not knowingly accept a gift directly or indirectly from a person that the official or employee knows or has reason to know. E, is an association or an entity acting on behalf of an association that is engaged only in representing counties or municipal corporations. H, disclosure of confidential information other than in discharge of official duties. An official or employee or former official or employee may not disclose or use confidential information that he or that the official or employee acquired by reason of the official or employee's public position or former public position, and that is not available to the public for the economic benefit of the official or the employees or that of another person. J, an official or employee may not retaliate against an individual for reporting or participating in an investigation of a potential violation of a local ethics law or ordinance. 3, Chapter 16, Section 16-7, financial disclosure. Local elected officials and candidates to be local elected officials. B, and is hereby amended to read as follows. Section 16-7, financial disclosure, local elected officials and candidates to be local elected officials. D, public record. Number 5, the commission or the office designated by the commission shall not provide public access to information related to consideration received from the University of Maryland Medical System, a government entity of the state or local government in the state of, a quasi-governmental entity of the state or local government in the state. F, an individual who is required to disclose the name of a business under this section shall disclose any other names that the business is trading as or doing business as. FG, contents of statement. 4, gifts. The statement filed under this section shall include a schedule of each gift in excess of $20 in the value of a series of gifts totaling $100 or more received during the reporting period or on behalf of, directly or indirectly, any other person who does business or is regulated by the city or form an association or any entity acting on behalf of the association that is engaged only in representing counties or municipality or municipal corporations. 9, relationships with University of Maryland Medical System, state, local government, or quasi-governmental entities. An individual shall disclose the information specified in General Provisions, Article S-607, I, and then 1, Annotated Code of Maryland for any financial or contractual relationships with the University of Maryland Medical System, a government entity of the state or a local government in the state, a quasi-governmental entity of the state or local government in the state. For each financial contractual relationship reported, the schedule shall include a description of the relationship, the subject matter of the relationship, and the consideration. 9 and 10, a statement filed under this section may also include a schedule of additional interests or information that the individual making the statement wishes to disclose. GH, for the purposes of Section 16-7, FG, 2 and 3 of this chapter, the C following. Interests are considered to be the interests of the individual making the statement. 1, an interest held by a member of the individual's immediate family if the interest was at the time during the reporting period directly, indirectly controlled by the individual. An interest held by a business entity in which the individual held an interest of 30% or greater at the time during the reporting applicable period. A business entity in which the individual held a 10% or greater interest. A business entity described in Section A of this subsection in which the business entity held a 25% or greater interest. C, a business entity described in Section B of this subsection in which the business entity held a 50% or greater interest. And D, a business entity in which the individual directly or indirectly through an interest in one of or a combination of other businesses entities hold a 10% or greater interest. 3, an interest held by a trust or an estate in which at any time during the reporting period, A, the individual held a reversionary interest or was a beneficiary, or B, if a revocable trust, the individual was a settlor. I, review of statement. Now therefore be it ordained by the City Council of Glenarden, Maryland, that this ordinance is and shall become effective immediately following approval by the mayor or passage by the council over the mayor's veto. And that, my citizens, is the first reading.
Is there a motion to bring this to the floor for a vote?
Oh, no, we have to have another reading.
Yeah, Mr. President, this is the first reading, so we just move on to the next piece of legislation.
Okay, sorry. Thank you. On to the next piece of legislation. Next piece of legislation is R 20-23, resolution to draft and award a contract to Thomas Michael for American Rescue Plan Project Management Services. The sponsor is Derek Curtis, Council President, Crest Administration. Public hearing was held on January 17th and introduced on January the 9th. Whereas the City of Glenarden's administration recognizes the need for a professional project manager to manage the existing American Rescue Plan Act funds, as well as the programs, initiatives, and plans specified by the mayor or city council that use the aforementioned funds. Whereas Thomas and Michael has shown to be the most responsive bidder, and whereas pursuant to the consulting proposal, Thomas Michael will provide management over federal funds received from the coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds, SLRF, under the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021 for the set price of $300 per hour with a maximum value of $108,000 through the entire 24-month contract term. Whereas, in accordance with the Charter Section 823, the administration recommends that it is in a public best interest that the consultant agreement with Thomas and Michael be drafted in accordance with the consultant proposal and be approved by the City Council, and that the mayor or council president be authorized to sign on behalf of the city. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the City Council of Glenarden, Maryland, sitting in regular session this 23rd day of January 2023 as follows: that the consultant proposal be drafted substantially the form as attached as Exhibit A, B, and it is hereby approved. Number 2, that the mayor or council president be and is hereby and is authorized to sign the consultant agreement. 3, payment for services shall be taken from the American Rescue Plan line item 20.38.10.7130. And 4, the resolution shall take effect immediately upon passage. Okay. With that, is there a motion to bring this resolution to the floor for a vote?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second by Councilwoman Fareed. Any discussion? Councilman Herring?
Yes, Mr. President. I'm still not comfortable with this contract. I mean, I know what we were told, but when I look at this contract on the back, the proposed cost says the proposed cost for the above services is an hourly rate of $300 per hour with a maximum contract value of $108,000 for the 24-month contract term. Now, we're told if we exceed $108,000 within that 24-month contract term, they will continue working for us for free?
Yes, that's the information you guys requested. I spoke to him. That's what he does for the other municipalities. It's in the contract. Yes.
So we won't. So we can't. So we are not going to get billed anything, because he says fees shall be paid within 30 days of the city receiving an invoice. So I just want to be sure that this is a maximum amount, and that when we hit $108,000, that we won't be still getting. Well, no. I mean, we won't be getting an invoice, because again, once we hit $108,000, that's it for us to spend anything. So I just wanted to be sure. I just see when I see hourly rate of $300 per hour, that means they're going to charge us an hourly rate for everything they do for us for the next 2 years. And like I said, we can exceed $108,000 real quick, real fast. So, all right, I just wanted to be sure on that.
Okay. Thank you, Councilman Herring. Is there any other discussion? Okay. Hearing none, we'll go for a vote. Give me a second. Councilwoman Fareed.
Yes.
Councilwoman Guillaume.
Yes.
Councilman Hairston.
Yes.
Councilman Herring.
Yes.
Councilwoman Jones.
Yes.
Council Vice President Ferguson.
Yes.
And Council President Curtis is a yes. This resolution passes. Councilman Jones?
All right. The next the next piece of legislation is Resolution R 21-2023. The sponsor is Derek Curtis. Council President, co-sponsors at the request of the administration. Public hearing, it was January 17th, 2023. The regular session, January 23rd, 2023. A resolution to award a contract to Municipal Grant Services for grant consulting and project management. A resolution to award a contract to Municipal Grant Services for grant consulting and project management. Whereas the City of Glenarden's administration recognizes the need to consult with professional grant writers and project managers to secure local, state, and federal grants that may be available to the city. Whereas the Municipal Grant Services has shown to be the most responsive bidder, and whereas the city administration staff has negotiated a contract with Municipal Grant Services, a copy of which is attached as Exhibit A, and whereas pursuant to the contract, Municipal Grant Services will provide local, state, federal, or other grant sources, consulting, drafting, monitoring, and project management for the set price of $3,750 per month. Whereas in accordance with Charter Section 823, the administration recommends that it is in the public's best interest that the consultant agreement with Municipal Grant Services in substantially the form attached be approved by the City Council, and that the mayor or the council president be authorized to sign on behalf of the city. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of Glenarden, Maryland, sitting in regular session on this 23rd day of January 2023 as follows. 1, the consultant agreement in substantially the form as attached as Exhibit A be and is hereby approved. 2, that the mayor or the council president be and is authorized to sign the consultant agreement in substantially the form as attached. 3, payment for services shall be taken from the American Rescue Plan line item 20.38.10.7130. This resolution shall take effect immediately upon passage.
Thank you, Councilwoman Jones. Is there a motion to bring this to the floor for a vote?
So moved.
Moved by Jones. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Fareed. Any discussion?
Yes.
Councilman Harry?
Mr. President. Okay. So we're paying them $3,750 to do the exact same thing that G.S. Proctor was doing for $2,000. I mean, it sounds like exactly what they were doing before. And we're going to pay them this every month, even if they don't do anything?
Acting City Manager Bryant?
Good evening. This is for police grants, just specifically for police grants. I don't think G.S. Proctor did the exact same thing these guys are doing. If they did, these guys are more reputable. The person that runs it is former police, know exactly what the police department needs. As he stated in his presentation, it'd be very beneficial for the police department. As you can see, police department, we need a lot of things, and they'll be able to help out, as he stated, help with another municipality that was going through some of the things we were going through with granting, helping them get $7.4 million in 4 years. So I think it'd be very beneficial, especially moving forward with the police department attempting to grow, attempting to get a facility, equipment, grants, and so forth, and it'll also help our budget. We can offset some of our budget, a lot of things in the budget that we go back and forth about we don't have the appropriate funds for. They can supplement that. So I think it'd be great for the agency and the city of Glenarden. Thank you.
Let me just say this, because I don't like when people put words out there like they're more reputable. GS Park is a very reputable company. I mean, they may be more qualified in securing police grants, but when it comes down to reputation, GS Park is a very reputable organization. Like I said, I'm just asking because, I mean, they could have gotten us whatever we needed if we would have asked for it, but that's one thing that we always run into is that we bring these contractors on and then we sit silent on what we need. I'm sure you'll probably utilize them. So I just see the figure as high. That's it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman Herring. Any other discussion?
Yes, Council President.
Councilwoman Fareed?
Acting City Manager, Chief Bryant, are they limited to only working on police grants? I had hoped that they would be able to help us with other grants as well, but hearing what you said, it sounds like it's very specific.
They're specifically police grants, but a lot of grants tie in together to benefit the city, so it all depends on what the grant is. But they will be beneficial to the city, but mostly police grants they specialize in. But there are other grants. For example, for retirement purposes, they know grants to come in to help offset paying into LEOSA, because right now paying into the retirement is like a large amount of money for the city, so they get grants to pay into stuff like that to help offset the budget and so forth. So I think it'd be beneficial.
Yeah, I definitely think we need that service for the city. I think there's potentially money out there that we could get, but my concern would be the limitation on their scope. That's it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Councilwoman Fareed. Any other discussion? All right. With that, we'll go up for vote. Councilwoman Fareed?
Abstain.
Councilwoman Guillaume?
Abstain.
Councilman Hairston?
Abstain.
Councilman Herring?
Abstain.
Councilwoman Jones?
Yes.
Councilwoman Ferguson?
Abstain.
Council President, yes. This resolution currently fails with 2 yes and 5 abstains. Next up is Resolution R-22-2023, resolution authorizing purchase of a Ford Police Interceptor from New Holland Auto Group. Public hearing was held on January 17th. It was introduced on January 9th, and it's being read today on January 23rd. Whereas the city's administration has determined that it is in the public's best interest to authorize the Glenarden Police Department to purchase a new vehicle to ensure the continued growth and operations of the police department, and whereas the administration seeks the council's approval to authorize the purchase of the police vehicle within the FY22 budget under line item 8367-30-80-10, and whereas it is necessary to purchase the Ford Police Interceptor from New Holland Auto Group at the price of $35,984 as attached in Exhibit A, and whereas the City Council has previously approved the allotted funds in the FY23 budget to purchase the Ford Police Interceptor SUV, and whereas due to supply chain disruptions, the police department has only now procured the specified vehicle, however, have identified the necessity of receiving the specially ordered police vehicle. And whereas, in accordance with Charter Section 818C, the administration has found that the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania has conducted a similar competitive bid and procurement process to that of the City of Glenarden to authorize a purchase from New Holland Auto Group for the purchase of vehicles attached hereto as Exhibit B. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the City Council of Glenarden, Maryland, sitting in regular session this 23rd day of January as follows. That the purchase of a 2022 Ford Police Interceptor utility from New Holland Auto Group for a total amount of $35,984 per the invoice attached as Exhibit A to this resolution be, and it is hereby approved. And number 2, payment for the vehicle shall be made from line item 8367-30-80-10, support equipment, police cars under capital project function within the fiscal budget. And 3, this resolution shall take effect immediately upon passage. Is there a motion to bring this resolution to the floor for a vote? Moved by Councilwoman Jones. Is there a second? I will second it. Councilwoman Curtis. Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. President.
Councilman Herring.
Okay, here we go again on this. Again, so when did we take delivery of the vehicle? Do we know?
Acting City Manager Bryant.
That was my vehicle. I think we picked it up, let's see, July. I think July. It was on back order, so it came out the other budget.
Okay.
We had to order it in advance.
Oh, it came out of
Yeah.
so it was correct. FY22, but
Yeah, 22 is right.
July 2022? July
Yes.
2022? Okay, so so why was the PO done September 13th, 2022? So the car was picked up before the PO was even filled out?
I'm pretty sure the PO filled out because we had to submit the PO when Captain Jackson got all the paperwork to submit it. Once we found out it was approved in the budget, so.
Okay, again, I really am really, and maybe it's just me, upset that this actually is coming to us now. And I understand, Chief, you have nothing to do with this. Again, we've even picked up the car before we even did a purchase order. And that's another violation of our purchasing policy. And I'm not understanding how I got to this point that we're voting on something backdated, basically, which should have come to us back in July before you even picked up the car. And I'm not even seeing how a check was even cut without the proper paperwork and authorization. So, I have a major problem with this. The purchasing policy has gone, I've been on here for 18 years and I've never seen this. I've never seen this happen where a check was cut without a resolution for over the required amount of anything over, before it was $2,000, now it's $6,000. And I'm just trying to figure out how we got to this point. I got any answers? I didn't cut the check.
I didn't know if you were asking the question or if you
I'm
were
asking the
finished.
question. How did we get to this point?
Councilman Herring, may
Yes.
I?
Councilwoman Gill.
Thank you, Council President. I didn't want to interrupt, Council
Yeah,
President. I too have the same question that I too have the same question as Councilman Herring as far as how did we get to this point? I just don't know. And I'm a little confused though, because if we look at the last page where it's invoiced, it says July 2021. So I don't know if that's a typo or if it was invoiced even further.
May I?
Yes.
Okay, a lot of times when we go through Harlan, we will get a quote from them and they'll lock into that quote. like a year early, and they know with the municipal government, it takes a little while for everything to get approved. So they'll give you that quote, and they'll hold that quote for a while for you, just so you can do whatever paperwork you got to do. So I can understand it being dated that far back.
Okay,
Yeah.
so July 2021 and then July 2022?
Yeah.
Got it. Thank you.
Any other discussion?
Yes, Council President.
Councilwoman Fareed.
Yes, I agree. I feel like I'm in a situation where I have to vote, like, I'm not sure why we're even voting on this. I mean, I understand what the policy is in regards to the amount, and we should have done it before. But now, it seems like if we don't vote for this, what would happen? It's already been purchased. I do have a broader issue. I know I'm hearing, this sounds very familiar. I recall having this conversation at the start of our term, and we were provided with the information that these vendors know that we're sort of good for the money, and so they will provide these things without actually, in some cases, actually receiving a payment, and then we're held accountable for paying for it. So I think we really need to look at our policy agreements with vendors, et cetera, so that this is not happening. Because what if we were in a position now, especially going from September or July when it was actually came into our possession until now, and we didn't have the money for that? What if we had reallocated that money to something else? What would we be doing now? So, I mean, I am going to support this because it's like, what's the point of even voting on this, number one? But number two, I think the broader issue is, how are we able to why are these companies allowing us to take possession of items and we haven't followed our process? Why does this keep happening?
Mr. President, may I?
Sorry, I'm just, that's, I mean, you can answer it if you know the answer, but that's, my statement.
Well,
Thank you, Councilman.
Yeah, we've done a lot of business with Holland. I think we bought at least 10, 11 cars from them. So they know we're good for it. So that's being, they don't look for resolutions from us. They don't care. They just want their check. We like I say, we bought a lot of vehicles from them, and I know they've been very accommodating when it takes us a long time to get these vehicles. Like you see the invoice is 2021, but we didn't pick up the cars till 2022, and they maintained that price. So.
Well, I mean, sorry, Council.
Councilman Fareed.
Yes, thank you. And that makes sense. However, I think what if I was a former police officer who didn't even work for the city anymore, and I went to Holland and procured a vehicle? Like, what? I mean, there has to be something more that they receive from us other than somebody saying, I want to order something, especially with this level of commitment. So maybe we need to have a conversation with Holland about what the appropriate purchase method is when dealing with the city of Glenarden. I'm not sure, but these after the fact purchases for such large amounts is just not good business.
Can I ask a question, Councilman?
Yes, Councilman
So
Harris.
is it on Holland or is it on us? Like, if y'all saying that they just held it because of the relationship, I don't think that has nothing to do with Holland, does it? That more so has something to do with how we did our stuff on our business on our end, right? Or I always say, am I bugging?
So
Anybody?
What I was speaking on specifically is the fact that they would be expecting us to pay for it, right? Like, so what I'm saying is that when we go purchase something, we need a bit more than someone just saying, I want to purchase this. I don't know what was provided to Holland in
Council
order
President.
to make the purchase, but I absolutely agree that from a payment perspective, that shouldn't have been cut, but Holland also shouldn't have given us the vehicle either without a payment. So,
Councilwoman Jones.
I believe that Holland has a relationship with one of the persons in the police department. That's why it's not like any police officer can go to Holland and say, I want a vehicle. They know a specific person, that being Captain Jackson, that they can, that they know is the procurement person that has always procured the vehicles for the city of Glenarden. So it's not like any officer that's worked here before and can go to Holland and say, or even me can go to Holland and say, I'm City Councilwoman Robin Jones and I want a vehicle. So they have a specific person that they do business with.
I'm sorry. Do you have anything else?
Well, what if Captain Jackson was no longer part of Glenarden? What will we do then in order to procure vehicles from Holland?
I'm sure the chief would go to the dealer and let them know, whoever our chief is, would then, if Captain Jackson is no longer with the city, then the chief of our police department, I'm sure, would be responsible enough to go and accountable enough to go to Holland or whoever and let them know that this person is no longer, you're going to be dealing with me or my assignee.
I hear you. I just think this seems like a very informal process for such significant expenditures.
Thank you, Councilwoman Fareed. Acting City Manager Bryant.
Yes, just let me make some clarifications real quick. As Councilmember Herring stated earlier, and a lot of times, and just to clarify for you guys, these vehicles, especially because of the COVID crisis in the municipalities and police departments in general across the country, wanted to procure vehicles. Once we found out and the budget got approved, Captain Jackson, because of his relationship, was able to procure vehicles for us to get us on the list to get vehicles in a timely manner. Just like right now, we still have 2 vehicles that we still don't have from those guys that we purchased in the last budget. So it's a process, it's a long process, it's a relationship. I met the individuals, the managers and so forth. Lieutenant Robson, which is our command staff, the captain, lieutenant and myself, develop a rapport with these guys. We do have a relationship with them, and it's beneficial to us because a lot of municipalities are also still waiting for vehicles. We're still waiting, but we probably had the last 2 vehicles next month. It's a process, and you see the dates and stuff on there. You have to procure them in advance. Like Councilman Harrison said, it won't be on them, it's on us. And as I stated, once I became acting city manager, just learning the process of being acting city manager, going through the process, trying to find out the ins and outs. The reason you see these is because a lot of these I saw, and after talking with the treasurer, we was like, hey, did we have this, this, and that? These vehicles were procured a while back, and we just I wanted to make sure and be transparent that we had everything in place. From the police department with the budget, the practice has been, if the money's been approved in the budget, we prepare purchase orders downstairs. We take it upstairs, and it's the city manager's responsibility to make sure the resolution is prepared and forwarded to the treasurer. Once I came in city manager, going through all the stuff, doing all the checks and balances, these are the things I discovered, so I wanted to bring and be transparent about it and make sure they're done in a professional and transparent manner. So that's why we're here with these from me as acting city manager.
Thank you. So before we go into the vote, let me say a couple things. I think last week it was said that over $100,000 in purchases were made by the treasurer, which is not true. This was the $35,000. It was not $106,000. Second, businesses have internal controls. Sometimes you assess those internal controls and you find out you need to tweak something here, tweak something there. You know, mistakes do happen. In my time of being here, this is the first time I have not seen a resolution with a purchase like this. So from my vantage point, this is the first time it happened. There's been more times, so 99.9% of the time, resolutions have been presented with purchases exceeding $6,000. And I know the treasurer has been under, some heat for this, but I will say this is not the treasurer's fault because the treasurer cannot make payments in and of by himself. I pulled the check. I signed the check. Mayor Cross signed the check, and the treasurer signed the check. And accountability is important in the city. It's important to me. And so whenever I'm in charge, I have to be held accountable, so the buck stops with me. I signed the check. Dean would never have made this purchase without me signing the check. I looked at the budget, it was in the budget. I looked at the purchase order, it was in the purchase order. I overlooked the resolution. So the issue is not with the treasurer who is successful 99.9% of the time. This is, I have to be held accountable. I remember when I made a snafu in a newspaper, and I had to go back and retract it for the budget last year. Hey, mistakes happen. It's important that we own them, we learn from them, and we move forward. So this is on me. I apologize to the citizens for overlooking this. I apologize to my fellow council members for overlooking this. And hopefully we can, Treasurer has already put some policies and procedures out there that we can all take a look at and make sure that we're tightening up our internal controls. So with that,
Council President, can I say something?
Councilman Hairston.
So I think that's honorable that you taking the hit, but it went through 3 hands, so everybody gonna have to take the hit for it. Like one person, we all gonna burn together. So really, we just need to find out how we prevent it. What's the preventable measures? But it's cool that you taking the hit for it. But at the end of the day, like again, we all gonna burn together. Like they're not just gonna look at you, or you. We all represent the city. So at some point, we gotta learn how to unify and do stuff the right way. That's just where I'm at with it.
Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman Hairston. Councilman Herring.
Let me say this, because we have policies in place for a specific reason. And those policies in place says that nothing shall be paid for anything over $6,000 unless it has council approval. That is not a hard internal control issue. That is not a complicated internal control issue. And again, there's been plenty of times when I was council president and other people were council presidents, we don't always get the resolutions for the checks that we sign. The check should not have been cut. That's the bottom line. If it says that in the charter, any payment over $6,000 needs council approval, you need a resolution for that. So no, I'm not sitting here taking the heat for nobody. Now y'all can be admirable if you want to be, but I'm not. Because I didn't do it, because the rules were not followed. And you want to sit here and say it's on you, that's all well and good, but I don't think that's the truth. That's not the truth. The truth is the policy was not followed. The $6,000 policy that we have in place has been in the charter for years, and before that it was $2,000 for 20 years, was not followed. And I still don't understand how a check was even cut without a resolution. So to sit here and just say that, that sounds all well and good, but again, responsibility is where responsibility is. You take the job and you have to accept the responsibility for what you do, for your mistakes. And I don't care if it's 1 or 2. We had a treasurer and this is no reflection on you, Mr. Stewart. We had a treasurer that made a mistake and he walked away with a whole bunch of money because people weren't looking. People weren't paying attention to what was going on, and saying that it's a good guy, but I'm just saying that policies are in place for a reason, and one mistake can mess up everything. And I'm just saying again that no, I'm not taking the heat for it, and no council members up here should take a heat for it, and no, the mayor should not take the heat for it, because the mayor did not cut the check, you did not cut the check, and none of us up here cut the check. The check was cut by the treasurer. He is responsible for our funds. He is responsible to make sure that the rules and regulations are followed based on that. He's been here 2 years. He's cut a number of checks and he's followed the policy. I don't understand how this got through. That's why I'm surprised. I'm not understanding how it got through and why it was done. So no, I'm not going to take the heat. I'm going to put the responsibility exactly where it lies. The policy in place is not good. I don't want people to think that we got a whole internal control issue up here. No, the policy in place is quite clear. It's concise. And it just needs to be followed. So, to put that out there, and now all these other new rules and regulations coming through, those rules and regulations don't even go into effect until the council approves them. So the interim policies, I'm like, I don't know. I cannot sit idly by and have the citizens think that we did something wrong when we didn't. When, again, it's their tax dollars. I got on here and want people to have trust in me as a council member that I'm going to acknowledge a mistake with their tax dollars when it happens and let them know who's going to be accountable for that mistake and what we as a council are going to do for that.
Thank you, Councilman Harris. So we'll have two comments and we'll move forward. So we're going to prolong this. Councilwoman Jones.
This is strange. Because when we had city manager, Mr. George was our city manager, and we had the parking lot paved. The $75,000 was in the budget. He sent a letter to the attorney. The attorney told him, well, if it's in the budget, go ahead and do it. There was no resolution written for that. The job was done. So I don't understand how we're making a big hullabaloo over this. This was just one mistake, and I do have the letter from the attorney that was sent to Mr. George that told him that it was okay to do that, and it was sent to Mr. Dean, and I will provide that information to the council. So, I mean, because it's something that was in the budget. These vehicles were in the budget because somebody put the cart before the horse and went and procured vehicles, and then came back, okay, now we have to pay. What do you do as a treasurer? Okay, you've already procured the vehicles, the people are looking for payment, and somebody didn't submit the paperwork the proper paperwork, so that would have went to the council. Then you don't stand there and not pay somebody or not pay a vendor when they've been in good faith, have been working with us all these years. We're here now trying to correct the issue. We've admitted to the mistake. We're trying to correct the issue, and we're being sit at a standstill because nobody has enough compassion to say, okay, this happened, we learned from it, we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. The final point I'll make before we vote is that too often I've seen the treasurer make a lot of good decisions. And it's not often in here that we say, oh, congratulations on the decision that you made. Oh, you signed that purchase order with the resolution. You don't see that often, but the first mistake, it's, let's just heap all this on them. That's hard to do. And that's not to say that people shouldn't be held accountable. I've spoken to Mr. Stewart, and he takes his job very seriously. We asked him to investigate. He investigated. And he's already taken, steps to make sure that this does not happen again. He held himself to a very high standard. And I think it's a shame that in society, we're willing to drag someone through the coals over one mistake. But when people don't see the ton of good things that an individual does behind the scenes. And so I respect what everyone said up here. There's points to what people say about accountability. The treasurer has held himself accountable. He's put things into place, and I'm looking forward to those controls being 100%, successful in the future. But I just want to say in this moment, Treasurer Stewart, thank you for all the times that you do get it right. It's not that often that is recognized. So for all the times you get it right, thank you. And thank you for owning a mistake and being willing to move forward. With that,
Mr. President, before we go forward, you did mention the mayor's name about signing the check, and I think she should be given an opportunity to speak on that.
We're moving forward with the
So
vote.
you're going to speak on it? You're saying she violated the rules? You violated the rules?
I never said that she violated any rules.
You said it's on you, the mayor, and the treasurer because you all signed the check. So you sat there and was able to give your explanation on why you did it and everything, but you're going to sit there and leave the mayor out there just saying, okay, she violated the rules and she can't speak out on it. Is that what you're saying?
Never said the mayor violated any rules.
You said that it's on all three of y'all.
I said that it is on me.
You did not. You said you signed the check, the mayor signed the check, and the treasurer signed the check. So you're saying all three of y'all are at fault. The responsibility go over as well as the council. And that's why I said I'm not taking responsibility for that.
That's fine. You don't have
So
to.
I'm just saying, well, I'm not going to, but I'm just saying I don't think it's fair to sit there and allow the mayor to put her name out there and then not give her an opportunity to say what she needs to say on that subject. I'm not saying going off on any other subject, but I'm just saying on that subject in particular. So, go ahead. I mean, she could probably say something during her comments, but I think it's only fair give her the same opportunity that you gave yourself to speak out on all of that and say what you needed to say.
Thank you. And for the record, I gave opportunity for me to to hold myself accountable. The mayor can say whatever she wants in her moment when she reports whatever she wants to report. For record, I do not think the mayor did anything wrong here. I took responsibility for my actions. In these motions, the way I try to handle them is I give the council an opportunity to speak before we vote. She is not a council member. She does not have a vote in this resolution. So therefore, we'll move forward. Councilwoman Fareed.
Yes.
Councilwoman Guillaume.
I'd like to just restate certain things real quickly. I do feel that on the onset, when Councilwoman Fareed stated that don't even understand why we're voting on this when the act has already been done. That's how I feel personally. And I also feel that once the purchase was made and once the vehicles were here, prior to a check being cashed or signed, we should have had this brought forth to us. So this is not on you, acting city manager, because you were not acting city manager. So with all that, because of this, I am abstaining.
Thank you. Councilman Hairston.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Councilman Harry.
Let me say this, because some comments were made, earlier about, going to the attorney and asking the attorney if something's been approved in the budget, then you can vote on it. In the history of Glenarden, we've never done that. We've never done it. And once the attorney realized where we showed him in the charter that it says the council got to approve anything over $6,000, he changed his tune and said that we got to approve it. So the previous city manager went to him and just gave him this one excerpt. And that's it. Oh, it's approved in the budget. So can we vote on it? I mean, can we buy it? Oh yeah, sure. Because he didn't give the attorney the full detail. Once we gave the attorney the section of the charter that says anything over $6,000 have to be approved by the council, then the attorney said it has to be approved by the council. So that Mr. George thing, I really am tired of hearing about Mr. George, because Mr. George is not the savior of Glenarden. Mr. George he's up in Greenville. Let him do what he's doing up there. But again, and the reason why we have to vote on this, because if the auditors pull this and there's no resolution attached, we'll get dinged in the audit with this. That's one thing. And they go through all major purchases to see that we followed proper policy and controls and have the resolutions attached that are supposed to be attached. So my vote is yes.
Thank you, Councilman Harry. Councilwoman Jones.
Before I vote, yes, we do need to have in place documentation to say what the city has done. And this is what this resolution is doing, is putting documentation in place to say this is what was done. Also, like I said, tomorrow I will present the documentation from the attorney to Mr. George. And I'm not saying that he's the savior of the city of Glenarden, but you just can't erase people like they want to erase culture, but you can erase situations and things that happen to suit your own issues. So my answer for this is yes.
Thank you. Councilwoman Ferguson.
Yes.
And my vote is yes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Resolution passes.
Sure.
Before we start, Mr. Simpson, could you look to see if these outlets have power? I think the switch is in there. Thank you. And then we'll plug it up. All right, Councilwoman Jones.
Resolution number R23, 2023, sponsor Derek Curtis, Council President, co-sponsor at the request of the administration, public hearing January 17th, 2023, regular session January 23rd, 2023. Date of introduction January 9th, 2023. A resolution authorizing the purchase of 2 Ford police utility vehicles from New Holland Auto Group. Whereas the city administration has determined that it is in the public's interest to authorize the Glenarden Police Department to purchase 2 new vehicles for police officers to increase public health and safety, and whereas the administration seeks the council's approval to authorize the purchase of the police vehicle within the current budget under the line item 8367-30-80-10, and whereas the city council has previously approved and allotted funds in the FY23 budget to purchase Ford police SUVs, and whereas it is necessary to purchase 2 Ford police utility vehicles, both VIN numbers are indicated, from New Holland Auto Group at the price of $71,968 as attached in Exhibit A. Whereas in accordance with the Charter, Section 818C, the administration has found that the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania has conducted a similar competitive bid and procurement process to that of the City of Glenarden to authorize a purchase from New Holland Auto Group for the purchase of vehicles attached hereto as Exhibit B, and now, therefore, be it resolved by the City Council of Glenarden, Maryland, sitting in regular session this 23rd day of January 2023 as follows. 1, that the purchase of 2 2022 Ford police utility vehicles from New Holland Auto Group for a total amount of $71,968 per the invoice attached as Exhibit A to this resolution, be and it is hereby approved, and 2, payment for the vehicles shall be made from line item 8367-30-80-10, support equipment, police cars under the capital project function within the fiscal budget, and this resolution shall take effect immediately upon passage.
Thank you, Councilwoman Jones. Is there a motion to bring this to the floor for a vote?
So moved.
Moved by
Second.
Jones, second by Hairston. Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. President.
Councilman Herring?
Yes, I just want to be clear. So we have we picked up these cars?
Who's that question directed to?
Chief.
Sorry.
We should be picking up these 2 vehicles probably in the end of this month or beginning of next month. They're being outfitted.
Okay, so they've been delivered to be outfitted?
Yes.
We don't have them in our possession yet?
Right.
Okay, all right.
Is that all, Councilman?
That's it, I'm done.
Any other discussion? Okay.
Oh, yeah, I do have another question. So let me ask this question, Chief. So you said you were going through everything, making sure all the bases were covered, and you found this needed a resolution?
Yes, sir.
You went through and found out that it needed a resolution?
Meeting with me and the treasurer met, and we went over stuff as me being city manager, and went over quite a few things and found out that we needed resolutions for some things that wasn't handled. While the previous city manager was here, so I wanted to find out and make sure that we was on the same page.
So the PO wasn't done until the 5th? The PO wasn't done until the 5th?
Let's see. I know POs, like I said, the POs were done back when we have to get the POs up to the treasurer when we try to procure the vehicle. And like I was saying earlier, with Captain Jackson making the phone calls and stuff, once we talk to the treasurer and find out that the money is in the budget, it's been approved, we'll get the invoice for the vehicles, and we do a purchase order downstairs, and we take it upstairs. That's the protocol that me being chief of police during that time took those upstairs, the purchase order and the invoice. And once we take it upstairs, it's up to the city manager to make sure the resolution is prepared, and then it's forwarded, I'm pretty sure, to the treasurer.
So for a purchase this large, the invoice was just down in your office? And the invoice was just down in your office? It didn't move anywhere? It didn't get up to the finance department?
I don't understand your question.
Okay, I'm asking because you're saying that you did the purchase order on the 5th. So I wonder where the invoice was that the treasurer did not get this to let us know that a resolution needed to be done and the PO need to be filled out. So I'm just trying to figure out where was the invoice at when you found it and got with him on, was the resolution done? So was the invoice down in the police department, or was it up in finance, or was it on administrative desk, or? 'Cause I see 2 invoices here.
Right. So a lot of stuff was in the city manager's office. So I went in the city manager's office and started going through stuff. I had human resources, Ms. Schultz. She went through a lot of stuff with me. We found a lot of things, a lot of folders and stuff, going through different things. And once we found a lot of stuff, we took it down to, well, she gave it to me, and I took it down to the treasurer's office, and we discussed a lot of these different resolutions that you see here tonight.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Councilwoman Fareed,
Yes.
Councilwoman Guillaume,
Abstain.
Councilman Hairston,
Yes.
Councilman Harris,
Yes.
Councilwoman Jones,
Yes.
and Vice President Ferguson,
Yes.
Council President Curtis is a yes. Resolution passed. Almost there. Next up is Resolution R-24-2023, a resolution to increase salaries for the Gold Room staff. Sponsor is Derek Curtis, Council President. Co-sponsor at the request of administration. Public hearing was held on January 19th. It was introduced on January the 9th and being read today on January 23rd. Whereas an equitable pay structure with competitive salaries is essential in attracting and retaining a skilled, motivated workforce, thereby increasing the level of service to our residents and clients, and whereas salary increases can have a beneficial effect on employee productivity and satisfaction when properly applied, all employees are affected by the increased cost of living. Whereas our current rate structure for the Gold Room crew member is 25 cents above the minimum wage, $13.25. The average salary for light positions is $15 to $20 per hour. And whereas salaries are slightly above minimum wage, they are far below the norm. And whereas the last adjustment to the salary in the FY22 budget is coordinator, $21.29, crew chief, $14.51, crew member, $13.50. Whereas the proposed rate increase are coordinator, $25 an hour, crew chief, $16.50 an hour, and crew member, $15 an hour. Whereas rewarding staff employees with an appropriate cost of living based pay increases would have the greatest overall effect in retaining and attracting a skilled, experienced, quality-driven, and productive workforce. And whereas there is enough salary savings to cover the proposed Gold Room rate increases. And now therefore be it resolved that the Council of the City of Glenarden recommends that the salary rate increases for the Gold Room staff be as follows. Gold Room coordinator, $25 an hour. Crew chief, $16.50 per hour. Crew member, $15 per hour. This resolution shall take effect immediately upon passage. Is there a motion to bring to the floor for a vote?
So moved.
Jones,
Second.
second by Councilman Herring. Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. President.
Councilman Herring.
But I know when we had our work session, I thought it was said that our gold room salaries were below minimum wage.
Correct.
Somebody, I mean, I know that was said in the work session discussion, that the salaries for gold room staff, for the lower level staff was below the minimum wage. And the minimum wage in Maryland is $13.25. I mean, I just want to get some clarification on that, because I know that was mentioned in another meeting. So, that's all.
Thank you. Acting City Manager Chief, do you mind if I go to Karen Schultz, who is our HR person? If you could come up, please. We can barely hear you. Sorry.
Good evening. Yes, you are correct, sir. When we had the work session, I was working from home, but we all were at home doing Zoom, and I didn't have the salaries in front of me. And what I was looking at or remembering was the 22 salary and not the 23 salary, since we really haven't had anybody. So that was an error on my part, and I did bring that to everybody's attention.
Thank you. If you could stay right there, please. Sorry. I'm sorry, Ms. Herring, were you done?
Yes, I'm done. Thanks.
In your opinion, do you think that the rate at what we have these are adequate to retain good staffing for the Gold Room?
Actually, no. I don't know what's in the budget. I don't know what's left how much we have in the budget so that we could increase and not have to do a budget resolution? Amendment, I'm sorry, have to do a budget amendment. I would recommend maybe the coordinator at 28 and possibly the crew chief at, I would say, maybe the crew chief maybe at 18, 19, and maybe the crew member at 16, 17, depending on, or I have a range between the crew chief and the crew members, and depending on experience, because our problem is that we're locked into one salary. So if we had a beginning and an ending range, then it'd be easier to hire people and not hire everybody at the same salary, because everybody's not comparable from an HR standpoint.
Thank you. And Treasurer, do we have enough money in the budget to accommodate those proposed?
Based on the amount that is remaining in the budget for salaries, yes, we do have the amount to cover them through to the end of the fiscal year. Where for 24, we would put them in their respective salary range. But for now, we do have funds remaining. Because one thing you should take into consideration, we didn't have any staff for more than, we're now in the 7th month. So yes, we do have funds available to cover.
So to be clear, we have budget to not only do what we have in the resolution, but budget to increase it to what?
To the amount
Ms.
that
Schultz,
the HR has.
$28 for the
disclosed.
coordinator, $19 for the crew chief, and $17 for the crew member.
As a matter of fact, I was looking at $20 for the, I think it was for the crew chief, and I don't remember how much I had for the crew members, but at $20 and $28, we would be able to manage those funds up until the next budget is done.
Thank you.
Yes.
Council President.
Councilman Hairston, sorry.
So are we about to table this and work through it and come back to it, or we just gonna make changes. Cause I'm not really comfortable voting on it if we're not gonna really have a conversation about it. Just making changes on the spot like this.
So, any other discussion before
Yeah, maybe it's just me, but the government ain't making no money. So how we bumping up all of these salaries? I mean, I'm in agreement with what we have here to try to get somebody in there so we can start trying to make money, but they want to push it up like we're making a profit in there. We're in a deficit in that gold room. So why would we take them up to $20 an hour and $28 an hour and all this other stuff when we're giving away free events, we're giving away gratis events, we got repasses, and that's it. Every free event we get, we lose $2,000, but we got staff working it. So I'm not understanding why we would even consider taking it up any higher than what we have here when we're not even making money in there yet. Now, I can see if we'll book the year out, okay, yeah, we looking at that, but we got in the budget out, what, $100,000 in revenue that we supposed to be getting and be 6 months into the year, and we're not even halfway there, I don't think. So I don't agree with even having a discussion to take it up any higher than what we have right now. When it becomes profitable, then we can look at that. But right now, the citizens are supplementing the incomes for the gold room. So, and then with all these free gratis events that everybody want to have, that's another issue.
Thank you, Council. I'm sorry. Thank you, Councilman Harris.
Yeah, let me just say this real quick. With the gold room and the city manager being gone, and the gold room's been running without a hitch. Since I've been acting city manager, everybody stepped up to include the DPW workers, to include my HR person, to include my personnel in the station. And they didn't have to do that. So these guys stepped up, and I think if we get this coordinated and get comparable salaries to other venues in the area, we should be able to flourish. The person we interviewed the other night have a lot of great ideas. I think one of the biggest things with us is having advertisement and getting out there, but we need people that's dedicated to doing that. My staff's been doing a great job. We had a repass today. We had one this weekend. So as Mr. Herron said, we don't have all the events we have, but speaking for my guys been stepping up to the challenge for the calls we got. I think one of the reasons why we haven't gotten the revenue is because we don't have that gold room coordinator designated to that spot, making advertisements and doing things that's needed to make it a comparable venue to other venues. I think once we get that person in place and get these salaries where we can get people, I think we can take it to a new level. But until we get to that level to get people to get in here and take it to that level, we're going to remain where we are. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'll just say that, so Mr. Herron, I heard what you said. I don't think we'll ever make money if we don't have anybody in here to bring the dollars in. I appreciate Acting Manager Brian and the staff for filling in. Mr. Hairston, I think it's a valid point, being able to talk things through. So with that, I would at the very least like to, I know the budget's coming up, that this be a serious conversation about where we want our staff, all staff, in 2024. I think it's fair, and I'd like to have that discussion, Councilman Hairston, at that time. All right. So we'll go with it as proposed in the resolution. If there's any more discussion, no? Councilwoman Fareed.
I would like to table this, so no.
I can't hear you.
I'm sorry, I have no energy left. No.
Okay. Councilwoman Guillaume.
I agree with Councilman Hairston. I think we should table it.
Table it?
Yes, please.
Sorry, was the vote to table it or?
No, the vote was to go with what we have here. And if I'm not mistaken, Ms. Schultz, I think this goes to your question. One of these salaries was it below the minimum wage?
gave you a trip, Michelle. She said she thought it was below, but it wasn't. It was actually 25% above the minimum wage.
Okay, I'm sorry.
So what I had said was, we should table it. My vote is no. That's what I had said.
Oh, you also, I'm sorry, okay.
Council President,
Is it table the motion then?
is there a motion to table, or are we taking vote for the resolution?
There was never a second on Mr. Harrison's motion, so the council president is calling for the vote to accept the resolution.
You want me to say it
Can we go
again?
back in?
You're in the middle of a motion. I mean, you're in the middle of a vote.
Yeah. Okay,
That's what I said. No. No. No.
thank you.
Yes.
Yes.
No.
No. Councilman Harrison is a no. Councilman Harry?
Yes, to get some people up in.
Yes. Councilwoman Jones?
Yes.
Yes. Councilwoman Ferguson? Yes. And my vote is yes. We have 1, 2 noes. 5 yeses, it's passed. Thank you. Councilman Jones, last one.
All right. Resolution R 25-2023, sponsor Derek Curtis, Council President, co-sponsor at the request of the administration, public hearing January 17th, 2023, session, regular session, date of introduction January 23rd, 2023. A resolution authorizing a contract with Global Public Safety LLC for the purchase of outfitting for 3 police vehicles. Whereas the City of Glenarden, Maryland, the city maintains a police department for the protection and the public health, safety, and welfare, and whereas to protect the public health, safety, and welfare, the police department must maintain an adequate number of police vehicles along with the necessary equipment for each vehicle. And whereas 3 police vehicles are in need of outfitting, such as lights, sirens, and transport compartments to properly serve the needs of the police department. And whereas Section 818 of the city charter requires that the city engage in a competitive bidding process for the procurement of goods and services with an estimated cost exceeding $2,000, except that wherever a federal, state, county, or local government or any agency thereof whose purchasing policies are comparable to those of the city has conducted a bid and awarded a contract, the city may purchase by contract the bid item at the bid price from the successful bidder, subject to the approval of the mayor and the council. And whereas the state of Maryland has conducted a competitive bidding process and awarded a contract to Global Public Safety LLC for the purchase of equipment for police vehicles, state of Maryland, BPO number 001B8400207, and whereas the state of Maryland's purchasing policies are comparable to those of the city, and whereas Section 818B of the city charter has been satisfied to justify the waiver of the competitive bidding process required by Section 818A of the city charter. And now, therefore, be it resolved by the City Council of Glenarden, Maryland, sitting in regular session this 23rd day of January 2023, as follows. 1, that the mayor be and is hereby authorized to sign a contract with Global Public Safety LLC for the equipment listed in Exhibit A and in the total amount of $71,723, provided that the authorization to enter into the contract be and is hereby contingent upon the City Council's authorization. Payment for the vehicle shall be made from line item 8367308010, support equipment, police cars, under capital project function within the fiscal budget, and this resolution shall take place immediately following passage.
Thank you, Councilwoman Jones. Is there a motion to bring this to the floor for a vote?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes.
Councilman Herring.
Okay, first of all, we need to put some numbers on the side of these resolutions so that we can pinpoint the lines and point to the citizens where we're talking. But on item number 2 on page 2, it says payment for the vehicle. I think that should say payment for the equipment, because it's equipment for the vehicles. Another thing, okay, this is a resolution for outfitting 3 cars. Now, I know the chief has been here for a while, and I know your car's been outfitted already, correct? Has that been paid for?
No, I think this is part of the other vehicles. My vehicle hasn't been paid for yet. It's just been outfitted because my vehicle came in earlier than the other vehicles. So mine's been outfitted, but it hasn't been paid for yet. It'll be paid for with the other 2 vehicles upon the completion of their outfitting.
So, okay, so I mean, and you sure it hasn't been paid for? So, Mr. Treasurer, has this been paid for?
I may have to look back at that to see if it was actually.
Because if it's been paid for, we need a separate resolution.
So I'll look back at that to see if it was actually paid for, but I can't say right away.
That's a separate outfitting for this, for that car. If it's been paid for, we need a separate resolution. We shouldn't be rolling out all up into this one resolution because that's already been paid for. These have not, the other 2 have not been paid for. That should be a separate resolution.
So multiple cars, if it has been paid, if one of the cars has been paid for, it should be a separate resolution. If the other 2 have not, that's another resolution.
So I'll follow up on that just to make sure, so I would not go forward with this.
Okay, so is there a motion to table this until we?
So move.
Second, third, fourth.
All right. Hairston and Herring. We'll table this. Councilwoman Fareed, to table.
Yes.
Councilwoman Guillaume.
Yes.
Councilman Hairston.
Yes.
Councilman Herring.
Yes.
Councilwoman Jones.
Yes to table.
Vice President Ferguson.
Yes.
And Council President Curtis is a yes. All right. Now we're on to the mayor's report. Mayor, so have 5 minutes for your report, please.
Good afternoon, citizens of Glenarden, and thank you, Council President, to the City Council, City Manager, Treasurer, all those present in this building. Please allow me to address with my 5 minutes R22-2023 and R23-2023. I do want to make a correction for record. The total bill was $107,945. The citizen that reported that actually added both of those legislations together for the 3 vehicles. I also want to acknowledge that my name was brought up in signing a check. Well, if you have delivered a vehicle on July 2022, you've written a purchase order September 2022, which was then signed by the Chief of Police, Regis, as well as the former City Manager, Consuela Barber. The invoice stating required payment 30 days after delivery, the vehicle is delivered. It is just good business to proceed. So I am glad the council did, in fact, pass R22-2023. R23-2023, which is for the 2 Ford utility vehicles from Holland Auto Group. I am happy to hear the council's conversation on this. Again, another invoice stating that 30 days after receipt of delivery, it is a point of excellent business that has not been delivered prior to a resolution being submitted. R24, 2023. I do want to acknowledge that our administration, while there was much accolade from our acting city manager, unfortunately has been performing the duties of the Gold Room during the city business hours. It is a concern of this mayor that that is called double dipping, considering that is an enterprise. In fact, the good use of the citizens' tax dollars paying for this administrative offices is at risk at this point, and I've asked multiple times that our administration be appropriately accommodated, and at risk during the duty hours, we should have a contract with someone doing that. Not that our administration would do that when it's the city business they should be handling. The mayor's key report, we did coordinate the snow removal contract. We have also requested discussions for the necessary traffic calming. It is 1 year later now. We are imploring the council to please take to action some type of traffic calming measure. We did not want to take Census Gatas up, but we do need to do something. Chief of Police Regis Bryan, I do want to acknowledge that several citizens are complaining about the speed of your officers through the Whitmore Town Center, heading into the shopping center there at Whitmore Town Center when there's not a pursuit. Please manage the speed. The budget relative to the executive branch has been zeroed out. Citizens, it is something that you need to note that this is a tragedy, because not only will the mayor not be able to pay for any of the dues or attend any of the conferences, but the money was taken in an ordinance essentially to back pay for an event that didn't even occur in the city of Glenarden, and also to pay for citizens, this was to pay for bonuses, Christmas bonuses for the administration, when we actually have a general budget line item called certificates and achievements that could have came from. And then furthermore, citizens, it was taken essentially out of the mayor's budget, which zeroed it out. Now, that is a tragedy, because your mayor won't have an ability to go to any of the conferences or represent your voice at the table. That is a tragedy. The mayor's office did extremely have a busy season in that we had 25 office meetings. We did achieve a Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award for volunteer service, was able to give that also during the Mr. D.C. Royal Ambassadors as one of their highlights. The Prince George's Hope in Action Task Force is moving forward with creating recommendations for the Prince George's County Executive. This mayor chairs the Community Assessment Committee. We will make 10 recommendations to get after the violence that has unfortunately taken root in our young folks. We're also, February the 4th, doing a Creative Youth Conference at the City of Glenarden, Glenarden Community Center. This will afford our youth an opportunity for self-expression. The NAACP Prince George's County Board has also taken their elections, and we are moving forward with looking out for democracy, not only in our city, but across the county of Prince George's. We had different opportunities to support tour drives, food drives, Les Reese with Post 275 during the Reese Across America. We also had an opportunity to go and pay witness to the burial of Prince George's County Sheriff Melvin High, a great community servant. Proclamations were issued to the GIS Soccer Academy, the Glenarden American Legion Auxiliary Post 275, Purple Up Day 2023, as well as proclamations for former policeman William H. Wright III, former Assistant Chief, City of Glenarden. The Glenarden Polar Express was a huge success. Thank you to everyone that did come out and enjoy that opportunity. We are grateful to report that there are 50 community partners who are willing to demonstrate great resilience in assisting our wellness programs, financial health programming, returning citizens programming. And I just want to give a shout out to Prince George's County for their help for our citizen who was facing homelessness. She did actually get that opportunity to put in an application and is actively receiving support. The Homeowners Assistance Fund was created under Section 3206 of the American Rescue Plan. With that Homeowner Assistance program, we will continue September 30th through 2026. there is an opportunity for supporting mortgage relief, weatherization, housing counseling, and legal services. Please reach out to the mayor's office at 301-773-2100. Applicants have to be at or below the 150% of the county AMI per household size. The total program allocation is well above the approved limit that we have currently with our housing assistance program. If you have any other need for this office, please do not hesitate to ask. We'll be happy to support any Annapolis legislation that's coming forward, one being the alcohol legislation. Please note that there is another alcohol unit market trying to come into the Woodmore Overlook and Woodmore Commons, which will put then 4 alcohol serving institutions near or in the city of Glenarden. Citizens, please note the information on the website for your support as we go forward to ask the county to not put another liquor store near Glenarden. Thank you for the opportunity to brief.
Thank you. Have any questions before I move on?
Yes, Mr. President.
Councilman Herring?
Mayor, what did you say about double dipping? Who's double dipping? Who did you accuse of double dipping? You said something about double dipping?
I don't recall a double dipping. Can you clarify?
You said people working in the gold room are double dipping?
Oh, so my question is, and well, my comment was, we have our administration working during duty hours. They are working for the citizens of Glenarden. They should be doing the work of the city. But the chief of police, acting city manager, just gave mighty accolades for our Department of Public Works and the administration, which have been doing gold room work during city hours. In my understanding of that, that is double dipping. You cannot work in enterprise as well as work in the city. Somewhere there's a clock difference. Thank you.
Chief, are they getting paid a separate salary?
No, sir.
They're only under their salary, correct?
Yes, to my knowledge, unless the mayor has some information I don't know about.
So there is actually no double dipping. I mean, I know we've done it historically. We've done that when the gold room was short staffed to keep it moving. We've utilized staff. And, you know, I mean, that's a very serious allegation to make when it's not actually happening. Again, you know, we got to be very careful with our words. You know, we as elected officials will put stuff out there, and that can trigger the office of the state prosecutor to come and investigate. So I'm just saying you need to be very careful with your words because no one's double dipping. We've always utilized other staff to help keep the gold room functioning. You know, for years we've done that. You know, it isn't a long-term thing. It's only while we are trying to get it back online. I mean, again, you got to remember, we went through COVID, we had no staff, and we're having trouble getting staff. And if the staff is willing to do the work, you know, I mean, I'm more power to them, you know. So.
Thank you. Mayor Cross?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Councilman Herring. In fact, we did have staff up until February of 2022. So the Go Room actually is an enterprise, similar to like a 7-Eleven. It just happens to be in the municipal center. Now, my question is, should the administration be working Go Room when we actually have Go Room budget that could have paid for a contractor to come in and support the Go Room functionality? Because we haven't paid for we haven't paid for anyone in the administration to do that Go Room work, but they are doing Go Room work under their everyday taxpayer paid duty day from 8 to 5. That's a problem.
As the city manager, Bryant, are there, under your supervision, duties that are falling through the cracks, things that aren't being performed in the city?
As I stated earlier, we have a high-performing administrative staff who've stepped up since I've been acting city manager. And once again, I'd like to commend our city administration for the outstanding work. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Guillaume?
I just wanted to ask the administration a question, whether it's acting city manager or the mayor, or even Ms. Schultz as HR. You don't need to come up here only if they can't answer. But in the staff's job description, does it say anywhere in there other duties as assigned?
According, I'll let the HR person answer that question.
I'm sorry, Ms. Schultz. Councilwoman Guillaume's question was in the general job description of employees, is there a category that says other duties as assigned?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And sorry.
Thank you, Councilwoman Guillaume, but my question in other duties as assigned, is that as assigned in accordance to the administrative side of the house or in accordance to the enterprise, which is the go room, which is not city?
Distinguished because we are all under the umbrella of the city of Glenarden, maybe an enterprise versus the staff, but we're all under umbrella, and everybody says, including mine, other duties as assigned, which is why I'm working this weekend.
Thank you.
Thank
Ms.
you.
Schultz.
And Ms. Schultz, just to clarify, you have, I know acting city manager said this, but you as someone who just stated that you are working this weekend, are you getting compensated additionally?
No, ma'am.
Can you say it loud?
No, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I just want to clarify that it was important for us to say that because, or hear that, excuse me, because typically when you have a job description and it says other duties as assigned, it's usually from the staff's supervisor. So in this case, the your supervisor is the acting, so you got the directive from the acting city manager.
It wasn't a directive. It was.
I'm sorry.
It wasn't a directive. It was basically who will work or who will help out this weekend. It's not you will help out.
Got it.
So basically, it's a volunteer type thing.
Okay. But this was discussed by with you and your supervisor.
Actually, it was discussed before he got in this morning, because I looked at the calendar along with the administrative assistant for the police department to see what activities were on the calendar for the week and the weekend, and to see if there were people to handle them.
And I think I was done, but I do want to echo, I think people know how big I am on words and terms, and so Councilman Herring, thank you for beating me to the punch about the term double dipping, because double dipping implies something typically illegal. And that's not something that we want to put out there, that we're doing something illegal when we're not double dipping. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Guillaume. So with that, I'm sorry, we're going to move on because we're not going to go back and forth. I think everybody's had their say. The mayor, you've stated your concern. I heard your concern. I think everyone has heard your concern. Council members have said what they said. We pulled in Ms. Schultz, and I think we're at a conclusion for that piece. The only other thing related to the mayor's office before we move on to the acting city manager's report is so, Mayor, a request is coming to you from the council's office to provide a list, since you have been mayor, of all the things that you've received as a gift as mayor, and all of the people you gave those gifts to. That is a requirement under the charter. If the council asks you for additional reports, that you are to provide it, and the council is now asking you for a report of, since you have become mayor, all the things that were donated to you for any of your events, and the people who you who you gave those donations to. This is not an accusation. This is for proper accounting. And speaking with the treasurer for proper accounting, we need records of all those things so we can make sure we're accounting for them appropriately. Mayor Cross?
Thank you. The treasurer has been provided all donations that were given to the mayor, as well has been provided any receipts of items that were purchased using tax dollars from the citizens of Glenarden. Anything that you think was given to anyone was given by those that wanted to provide resources or support to the city. They are not gifts to the mayor of the city of Glenarden. The mayor has never accepted any funds. Any funds that came in went straight to the treasurer. The mayor has not accepted any gifts inasmuch as been a throughput and a conduit to which others have received. But the mayor receives nothing.
Thank you. And again, this is not to say that the mayor has received anything. Now we will need from the executive office a list. You said that you've already provided that, so it'll be easy for you to now give that to the council. A list of what you've received since being mayor, what your office has received or the city has received at your events, and the individuals who you then turn to bless those gifts with. If they could be done by the next regular hearing, that would be great. That gets you about 30 days out to prepare that. Would you need more time?
Again, the treasurer has everything that has been gifted to this city. In fact, he also has it in a report and has provided that documentation in his own reports. Every time I've produced a report, you've been provided that documentation. So you have your reports from the treasurer.
Thank you. My question is not to the treasurer. I'm not asking the treasurer for anything. This is a request of your office. If you want to work with the treasurer's office to get that, then work with it. But this is a request directly to the executive office. So if you can provide that to the council, that'll be great. It's 30 days, enough time.
Oh, sure. We'll just work with the treasurer to provide what has already been provided to the city of Glenarden as far as reported.
Thank you. And it may be helpful for all of the, if you could match it with all the events. Thank you. Next up is the acting city manager's report.
Good evening, everyone. For acting city manager report, I just want to highlight a couple of things. We were able to get the snow removal contract taken care of. We did meet with Charles P. Johnson and Associates in reference to the police station. The cable company signed the contract and began with us. Actually, he's doing a great job. The setup we have tonight is part of his work, so we like to commend him in reference to that. We also participated in a couple of meetings for the 7th Street Park project, which is coming along. I'd like to thank Councilmember Fareed for taking the lead on that, working with Councilmember Guillaume in reference to that. And we did meet with Murphy and Dittenhofer in reference to our contract to begin renovating the council chambers that we're sitting in at this very moment. So those are the highlights from the city manager's report. Nothing really significant in reference to the chief of police report. However, the mayor did mention about speeding in Woodmore Town Center. I'll take a look at that and we'll move forward in reference to that and any other citizen concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, acting city manager Bryant. Next up is the director, still on you, chief of police report.
Yes, I just mentioned that. I didn't have anything significant with the report in reference to that.
Thank you. Director of Public Works. Okay. Mr. Simpson.
Good evening. As it states in the report, I guess some of the things to point out, particularly some of the fleets, we had some repairs done to one of our pickup trucks with the running boards as well as some servicing. I think that may have been on the last report. I'm sorry, I wasn't prepared to necessarily give any particular details in tonight's report. I've documented all those. We did have the storm drain that was damaged during Ward 1. The Prince George's County DPI did come out and was able to take care of that, which was much sooner than what was originally forecasted. Also, we were able to, as it was mentioned in an email, also get a crosswalk on Fisk and Glenarden Parkway. Those are just some of the highlights in my written report.
Thank you. And I'm sorry. Are there any questions?
I do have some questions.
Okay. Do you want to go first?
I just have a question.
Councilwoman Jones?
I noticed that there were some drums down on Delwood Avenue and Glenarden Parkway. As you come around that corner, I saw some drums. Is there a stormwater issue there also?
I haven't heard of a stormwater issue. I know that I believe the county or WSSC may have been working on something, but I'll investigate that.
I didn't see either one of them down there, but I just saw the big orange drums down there.
Okay.
And it may be the person that lives in that corner house might have put them there, because I'm seeing cones pop up in different places where, before when Officer Thomas was here as our code enforcement person, he would pick up cones because people would try to take cones and put them in the street to say that that was their parking place, and you cannot do that because it's a public street and anyone can park anywhere in a public area. So
Okay. And that's on Delwood Avenue?
that's the corner of Delwood and Glenarden Parkway as you turn the corner.
Thank you. Councilman Herring?
Mr. Simpson, question. I have a few questions for you because I'm still looking to see what's going on in Public Works because, again, I'm getting complaints. I'm telling you about trash. Ward 1 was fine, but I rode through Ward 2 and Ward 3 on Tuesday after Martin Luther King's birthday, and they were terrible. Especially Laval. I don't know what they're doing on Laval, but I know nobody went down there. And Reed Street. I mean, I'm trying to figure out what's going on. Is the field supervisor doing what he's supposed to be doing by supervising these guys out here in the field to make sure these jobs this stuff is getting done? Because it looks like there's nothing. I'm not sure what's going on now, because it was getting done before, but it's not getting done now. So I mean, what's going on with that? I mean, I'm just noticing a number of things. A prime example is Martin Luther King Park, the leaves over there. Those leaves sat there until a citizen complained about them. Are you going out, or is the field supervisor, is somebody going out surveying this town to see what needs to be done in this community? Or is everybody sitting down here in the office? Because I'm not sure what's going on now, but I know I'm not seeing the services that we were getting before. So first I would like to know, why weren't those leaves over at Martin Luther King done earlier before a citizen complained about them?
Well, I say, Councilman Herring, thank you for bringing that to my attention. This is the first I'm hearing of some of your concerns. I'll definitely make sure they're addressed. I do know there was something was brought up as it related to the MLK site. I know we had some large rocks and debris. It was a contract from Smallwood Landscaping that I believe you had given to the acting city manager so that we can get that addressed, and it was underneath the $6,000 threshold. So we have done that. Once that area was cleared of that debris, we did make sure we followed up and removed the leaves.
Those leaves, that majority of the leaves weren't over there. Majority of the leaves were on the upper lot by the playground equipment and the parking lot up top. That's where most of the trees are. So, I mean, and also, I mean, it's just things I'm seeing. Like, I mean, and I meant to bring this up before, after a Harvest Day event that the mayor had, that I rode by the city and the Public Works pickup trucks were outside in the rain, and all the chairs and the tables were on the back of them, sitting in the rain, and they were out there overnight. I mean, is that what our Public Works crew do? Leave our property unsecured? Is that
no? That's
customary?
the first I'm hearing of that, Council.
It was out there. You know, I'm trying to figure this out because you are the director of Public Works, but it seems like you don't know what's going on in your department.
No, I just don't know the things that you're bringing to my attention. Every day I drive the city.
You drive the city every day?
Every single day, along with the supervisor.
So, along with the supervisor?
Yes.
So you and the supervisor are in communication, so he's the field supervisor, so he should be out there making sure that these guys are doing what they're supposed to be doing. and that everything's being picked up. That's his responsibility as field supervisor, looking at his job description that I have here and your job description that I have here. So I don't know what's going on or who's doing what, but something's not working. But it needs to start working, because we brought on a public works director to address some issues in here in this community. And personally, I'm telling you personally, what I know of a public works director is not getting done. A prime example, when I was up here about a week ago, just the bathroom, the men's bathroom alone last Monday was dirty. I mean, they don't clean the bathrooms
Daily.
They wasn't clean. It was trash on the floor. It was not clean.
Yeah, daily. And what I can do is try to follow up with pictures just to make sure they're done daily. There are logs that are kept up. I certainly appreciate you bringing this to my attention now, but as you come across that, if you bring it to my attention, I'll make sure it's addressed immediately. But the things that you're mentioning, I'm not seeing those same things.
Okay. Well, I mean, I do see them. And, okay, well, prime example, I know you can see this one. What about the treads on these back steps here? Because I came up here on the weekend.
The stair treads on both.
Treads are missing.
Yeah, no, I'll definitely say that. The stair treads on both staircases, before I even got here, were like that, and they definitely need replacement. I did give that assignment to our field supervisor, and he should be getting back to me with that.
To replace the treads on the steps.
Yes.
Okay. And so, I mean, just with some other things I know, I'm gonna just tell you, my father owned a cleaning business. I know it's a lot of things, like I say, in this building that, like with this floor down here, I see you stripped it, you waxed it, but they missed spots. I mean, there's one right over there by you on the floor where they missed that spot, and I don't know what they did on the police department, because that looks a total mess. That was looking a total mess. I don't know if they hit it or not, but I'm just saying that. I mean, was the floor done during working hours, or was it done using overtime?
So the police department, we can't burnish and polish those floors during working time. This floor was done during working time. So whenever we're afforded the opportunity, when no one's going to be traveling on those floors, we definitely address them immediately.
So they didn't use overtime to do these floors?
These floors?
Yeah.
No. Here in the bathroom area and the police department area, yes.
Okay. All right. Again, and you have all your employees leaving at 3:30 now?
No, not all of them.
Well, who's here? Because I was told they all leave at 3:30, which is a major problem for me, because, again, this building is open till 5. Your staff is essential employees. There should be somebody manning this building as long as this building is open. If a pipe bursts or something happens, we need a public works assistance. They should be here to do that. And I'm told, and I'm telling you honestly, I've been up here. I haven't seen anybody around here after 3:30. So who's here after 3:30?
I'm here.
Just you?
Yes.
And you think that's acceptable?
Yes, I do.
I don't. You're a public works director. What are you going to do if a pipe bursts and you need 2 people to handle a situation? You going to call somebody up and have them come out here?
If need be,
What if it's snowing outside? You going to go out there and shovel the snow?
Well, if we're snowing outside, we have a snow plan. We'll certainly address that, because there's a plan that you want to attack any type of snow, ice conditions.
So you're saying letting all of these guys go at 3:30 is acceptable as a public works director? And
I'm saying that I've made the hours. I'm saying that I've changed the hours to be able to get the team together. When I came on board, this team was dysfunctional for a lot of different reasons. Right now, we have developed a team, we are progressing as a team, and we're dealing with the issues that we have internally. Okay. Those things I don't necessarily care to speak about. I certainly talk about them with the acting city manager as well as HR.
So you let them all go at 3:30 so they can be
I don't let them go all at 3:30. What I've done is set the schedule based upon what I believe is beneficial for the city. If it does need to adjust, I certainly will.
Well, that's not beneficial to the city. And again, so you let them all go because you're trying to get...
How is it not beneficial to the city council?
You're trying to get... Because, again, as I said, they are essential employees. We've always said... Who locks the door down here?
Hold on. Who locks the door down here?
Are we talking about administrative policies?
Point of order. Just 1 second. Because I don't want you guys to talk over each other. So, Ms. Herron, I'm not trying to interrupt, but at this point, you're talking over each other. So if you can say your piece, not your piece, if you ask your questions and give him an opportunity to answer, and then when you're done, then Mr. Simpson, then you can respond.
Okay, well, let me ask a question. Who locks the door down here?
We have talked with administration, and administration locks the door.
No, who in administration locks the door down here?
It's a combination between the admin person as well as Jordan McClung.
Your public works, you along with the police are responsible for securing this building. Why would we have a receptionist and an executive assistant being responsible for locking this door down here?
Locking the entry doors?
The entry doors, yes.
We talked about that, and we didn't feel as though that was a problem. I don't understand where locking the doors is the responsibility of Public Works if we're working together as a team to be able to do so.
You know what?
I didn't know that was a policy that you
Okay, let me just say, you are the director of Public Works.
I am.
You maintain the building, correct?
I am.
You maintain the building.
Yes, I do.
So you should make sure the building is secure as the director of Public Works, that all doors are locked when you leave out of here.
And it has been.
Your department should make sure that's done, not administration. So you put it off on the administration so that you can let your people leave at 3:30?
I didn't put anything off to let my people leave at 3:30, no.
It seems like that's exactly what you did, because now it's up, and I don't think that's acceptable at all. I don't think an administrative assistant or executive assistant should be responsible for securing this building. That's not their responsibility. You're the director of Public Works, and it seems like you just want to be friends with your staff, so you're going to let them do what they want to do. Because I'm telling you honestly, I don't see a lot getting done.
Well, point of order. Point of order.
Mr. President, I don't need you to reprimand me on what I'm going to say. I don't need that.
Mr. Harry, I just said point of order. You're making accusations that he's friends
Mr. President, I am a representative for the city of Glenarden.
I agree.
I represent the citizens' tax dollars. I have a right to ask any question I want in regards to how their money is being spent. Now, you may not like it, he may not like it, but it's my right as a representative for Ward 1 to ask the question. You're not going to sit here and tell me what I can and cannot say. We've been through this before. Now, he may not like it, but that's everybody has been up here in this hot seat. Everybody since I've been here. He's no different than anyone else. Everybody has been in that hot seat. And you're not going to sit here and dictate to me what I can and cannot say and what I can and cannot ask him. I'm telling you exactly what I see. It's my opinion. It's not yours.
So, Mr. Herring, my point of order was not for any question that you had. The point of order was the attack on him being friends with his employees. That was not a question to him. That was an attack on his character of him being more focused on being friends with his employees, which was out of order. You can ask any question you want to.
Mr. President, that's my opinion.
I let you talk. I did not interrupt. If I could finish, please. You can ask any question you have. I'm fine with that. My point of order was so it did not take a personal route and you making a reference to him being focused on being friends with people. Just keep it, if you could, please. Keep it questions and allow him to answer the questions.
I'm going to say this again, Mr. President. That's my opinion, which I have a right to. You
absolutely.
may not like it. That's too bad. I mean, that's what I see. Because again, if you're letting everybody off at 3:30, you're shifting your responsibilities to somebody in administration. When Public Works has always secured this building, I feel it as you're letting everybody off, and I'm not seeing things getting done. I see trash not getting picked up. I'm seeing, again, the mayor just mentioned a pilot program. We got a resolution out here for speed bumps. Where are you at with that, Mr. Simpson?
The resolution for speed bumps?
Yes.
I know that there's been a discussion about that. I do believe we need to address a couple of things as it relates to the streets on a whole within the city, particularly on Glenarden Parkway. When I did meet with some contractors relative to a paving project. In discussing those things and discussing it with the treasurer, the acting city manager, we are coming to some conclusions where we should be able to bring a resolution. I do believe the sidewalks personally need to be addressed first and foremost, just because of the liability and trip and falls and things of that nature. But I definitely believe we need to add these calming devices.
Okay, well, a resolution was passed on a speed bump pilot program that basically lays out everything we need to do. All you got to do is measure the streets and order the speed bumps because we're trying to move them around the city to see where we need them and where we don't need them. So maybe you should get in touch with the the clerk to the council and get a copy of that legislation and see where you need to go with that. Because again, as Director of Public Works, I'm seeing things that you as the director should be seeing and should be addressing. Where are we? Have you gotten an assessment on Ward 3 streets and how much it would cost to pave those streets?
Yes, we are working on those numbers, and I do have some numbers for that. Yes, sir.
So what are we looking at right now? Do you know the dollar amount?
Yeah, about $500,000. I think it was 5. Yeah. And that's primarily for Glenarden Parkway. I believe it's going to definitely go north of that once we assess everything. But Glenarden Parkway and a couple of side streets, we're looking at about $500,000 so far.
Okay, and this is what I'm talking about. We need to know the total value of what it's going to cost to do Ward 3 streets so when the blacktop companies open up in the spring, we're ready to go.
Yes, sir.
We don't have to piece it together. So
totally agree. So you'll have a proposal along with a resolution once that determination has been made, or the information, so that the council and you guys can make a decision accordingly.
Okay, and again, like with McLean Avenue, I had a citizen that lives down there, a former councilwoman. She complained about McLean Avenue. I took it over to her representative, Mr. Hairston, Councilman Hairston, to let him know what was going on. I went over there, looked at it. It was down to dirt. Nobody went over there to do anything about it until he brought it up to y'all. So you're saying you ride the streets every day, and if you ride the streets and you didn't see that and you didn't get it fixed, and I know it's been like that for a while.
No, I actually did. That particular pothole had been repaired on several occasions. There's a damage, water main or some type of damage that WSSC has to do the repairs. Whatever patching we do is going to come back, just as it has prior to me being here.
No, what it was is WSSC had already patched it, and it did a poor job at it, and so it keeps on coming back because it's only had a dry patch put in when it needs to be milled and paved. That's what the problem is. But again, you said you saw that and you left it like that until a councilman complained about it.
No, I did not say that.
You just said you rode the
said,
streets and you saw it.
That is not what I said. That is not what I said.
That's exactly what you just said.
No, that is not what I said.
So you didn't fix it until this councilman addressed it with you?
No, actually, and I think it said in the email and or voice conversation, I said, thank you, Councilman Hairston, for bringing that attention. We saw that one, and we are addressing it. As he brought that to my attention, I made sure the very next day it was addressed. I was already aware, and it was very easy to be able to determine that it was a WSSC issue. So wasting resources on just the patches is a bit of a problem, and we still need to make sure WSSC rectifies the situation.
It's not a WSSC issue. It is not, Ms. Jones. I know Ms. Day lives on that street. Keep your comments to yourself.
Point of order.
Ms. Day, Councilwoman Day lives on that street. She knows exactly what happened. That's why the road is so patched up right now, because WSSC has already cut it up.
If I can, the point of order was...
That's your problem. You're listening to the wrong people.
Ms. Herron, if you have any questions, that's fine, but if we can suspend the going back and forth.
I'm asking questions. I'm trying to figure out what's going on with the city's tax dollars money, the tax dollars for the salaries that we're paying out.
I was just specifying what my point of order was for. It wasn't for you to stop asking questions. It was for so it would not be a back and forth.
Okay, let me just say this, because I'm going to wrap this up, because I can see where we're going right now. Okay, so the Christmas party, you were the only one at the Christmas party. Why was that? I mean, we've never had staff just bail on a Christmas party. I've never seen that happen. I don't think that was right at all, because we needed people there to work that party. Why don't you mind your business, Ms. Jones, and keep your comments to yourself?
Point of order.
And keep your comments to yourself.
Wow. So, at this point, if this does not,
that's your problem now. You keep on listening to the wrong people, and that's the one that's going to get you in trouble.
Herring, please.
Y'all keep on running around behind us, things you know what she's talking about.
So this now I'm formally warning.
I'm going to tell you this right now.
Councilman Herring, look, I'm not trying to go back and forth with you. I'm trying to have a productive meeting.
Let me go ahead and finish my question.
I'll let you finish everything, and I don't have a problem with you asking questions. But our citizens do not want to hear a back and forth of you telling somebody to mind their business, or if Ms. Jones say something to you, or somebody say something back.
Did you correct her?
I just said, or if Ms. Jones said something back. That is the same thing. If Ms. Jones said something to you or you said something to her, the citizens do not want to hear us going back and forth with, this petty arguments. They want to hear some of the things that you have validly said. Hey, what is going on with these streets? What is going on with here?
Let me wrap this up.
No. Let me finish.
Because I'm ready to move on.
Let me finish. Let's ask questions. Let's be professional. Let's be courteous to our employees. Let's conduct a conversation in a way that we're being respectful both ways. I have no problem with anybody asking questions, no matter how long you have a right. If you want to filibuster and ask 100,000 questions, at some point I might call a timeout or something, but you have a right. I just don't want us to regress into going back and forth. That's it.
You done?
I am done.
Okay.
Councilman
Let me
Harris, you
finish
have the
this up.
floor to ask any other
So I
questions
can
you
wrap this
have.
up because I can see where this is going. Let me just say this. We brought this position in, okay, one other question. Where are we at with the roof?
I'm sorry?
Where are we at with the roof?
The roof?
Yes,
Which part of the roof are we
the whole
referring to?
roof.
There's a problem with the roof? Are you suggesting
So
to
let me
me
ask
that there was
let me
something
ask you
that's
this
going on
question
with?
because I'm really getting concerned now. Are you communicating with your field supervisor?
I think you need to ask the field supervisor that
I'm
particular
not asking the
question.
field supervisor
Councilwoman
anything because
Harris.
that's not my job.
One second. Point of order.
I communicate with the
One
field.
second.
I'm not
One
asking the
second.
field supervisor anything.
Mr. Herring, if you ask him a question, please allow him to answer the question. Once
He just answered.
No,
He said, "I need to ask the
Mr.
field
Herring.
supervisor."
Mr. Herring, you cut him off when he answered the question. If you could just extend the respect that I asked him to extend to you to allow you to ask your question. If you can now allow him to answer fully, then you can go back if you have a
Okay, what
response.
was your question?
The response to his question.
You say, am I communicating with
Yes.
my field supervisor? Every single day I communicate.
That's not, no, that was not the answer you gave. Give me the
No.
answer that you gave.
I said, are you communicating with my field supervisor?
No,
I think
that's not
you
the
need to
answer you
communicate
gave. You
with
said
the-
I should be
Because I'm not
communicating with your
exactly
field
sure why would you think I don't communicate with the field
Because
supervisor?
I'm asking you a question, because I just asked you about the roof.
Yes.
So you're not communicating with your field supervisor. You
Well,
do
let me
know
say
there's
this.
You do know
In
there's
everyday conversations with my field supervisor, not one
Mr.
time has the
President.
roof ever been
All right.
mentioned.
So since this conversation is not really going anywhere,
Mr. President.
Mr. Herring, I think it would be best if all the list of things that you have that needs to be matter of fact, Mr. Simpson, I'm asking that you just listen to all his questions. If you don't have the answer, then feel free to take note, to say I'll get back with you, and to follow up to Councilman Herring's concerns with everything that he's asked you. If you need a piece of paper, I'll give you a piece of paper so you can write it down, and then that way it does not, keep on going back and forth. Mr. Herring, as I said, you have a right to ask any questions you have. You have the floor to ask a question.
Again, I was asking about the roof because, again, the roof has a warranty. The roof has to be maintained. The leaves have got to be removed from the roof. The drainage system has to be cleared at all times. Otherwise, it invalidates the warranty. So do you know that?
No, I do not. Not until you just brought that to my attention. Because my field supervisor, nor anyone else within the city of Glenarden has talked to me about anything with a roof and its warranty. So if you're asking me, did I get that from my field supervisor? No. Are you asking me, do I talk to my field supervisor?
That's what I'm
Yes.
saying.
The reason why I've changed the hours is because I meet with the team daily to make sure we're all together, to make sure we're on the same page, to be able to address any and every concern. I don't want to get into a lot of the employee issues that I am encountering because I don't think this is the proper venue to do so.
Okay, just one other thing, and then I'm done because
Yes, sir.
I don't want to go back around. Okay, the bushes up at Martin Luther King, a citizen again is complaining about the bushes up at Martin Luther King being overgrown. That's right at the corner of Martin Luther King and Church Street. They're saying it's causing a blind spot.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
I'll
they
get
need
that.
to be addressed. But whatever you do not send Courtney Campbell up there because he hacked up every crepe myrtle in Ward 2 a couple of years ago. So I don't want him touching them bushes. He hacked them things up with a machete, and I definitely don't want that done up there at that park. Just to let you know.
Yes, sir.
I'm serious.
No, I
'Cause
know
if he
you
does what he did on Glenarden Parkway to those trees up there, we're gonna have a major problem.
Yes,
So
sir.
I'm just letting you know that. So that's it. I'm done.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
But it does answer a lot of questions for me.
Councilwoman Jones.
Yes, I just want to take this opportunity to say I beg to differ with Councilmember Herring's assessment of Ward 3. I ride Ward 3 and Ward 2 and Ward 1 almost every day myself. And I don't see any trash in Ward 3. Some issues that I see, like there was a big box sitting in front of Mr. Councilman Curtis's house. On my way to my Pilates class, I got out of the car, got the box, crushed it down, put it in my trunk, and when I finished, I bought it at my class. I brought it up here and put it in the dumpster. Other than that, I don't see this barrage of trash that he claims that he sees in Ward 3 especially. I don't see that. I think that the city is being kept up very well. After holidays, we do have to understand that Public Works does not work on holidays, Mondays. So, of course, Tuesday, you might see just maybe 2 or 3 pieces of trash you may not see. And most of the citizens, especially in my ward, will come out and pick up trash or make sure the trash is taken care of. So I don't see that at all. I take issue with that because I just don't see that in Ward 1, 2, or 3, where there's a barrage of trash laying in the street that Public Works has not addressed. The other thing is, at the end of the cul-de-sac in Ward 2, I see the field supervisor riding down there about every other day, and I can bring my ring footage to show you. And there's a portion of that belongs to the city, those bushes in that cul-de-sac and that grass is supposed to be cut. Does he ever do that? No. He comes down there, he goes in the cul-de-sac, he turns around and he goes back out. Like I said, I have ring footage of it to show you that's the truck coming down there. As far as those crepe myrtles, my mother has always been a person, green thumbs. When I showed her the crepe myrtles that had been cut, she said, don't even worry about it, they're going to grow back. And they did grow back beautifully over the past season. So I take issue with all of that. For someone to say that there was an issue with those crepe, yeah, it might have looked funny in the beginning, but my mother is a green thumb person. She looked at those crepe myrtles. She's 89, 90 years old. She looked at those crepe myrtles. She says, honey, those are going to grow back. They'll be fine. And they did. Thank you.
Just one final comment. Just hearing a lot of thank yous to you and the Public Works Department for completing the crosswalk. I think that's Fisk and
Yes.
Glenarden. The children are walking safely in the crosswalk, so thank you for taking the lead on getting that done for that area. So with that, appreciate you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Ms. Stewart, you have 2 minutes.
I'm going to do it. Good evening. This is the Treasurer's Report for November 30th, 2022, and the highlights are that as of November 30th, 2022, the revenues received to that point is $5,153,864. The expenses amount to $2,401,851. Given that, revenues have exceeded expenses by $2,752,013. Real property tax installment receipts. Real property tax installment receipts for November, or up through to November 2022, was $193,057,000. It was adjusted by $43,061 for special assessment collected for the month. In a subsequent review, the month of December had collection of $112,432. Collections for general funding, as at November, the general fund received amount of $2,922,567. Of that amount, local taxes was State grants was $28,734. Service charge was $478,639. Other financial sources was $83,939. Personal property tax, as of November 2022, collections for personal property tax were $15,094. However, personal property tax billing amounted to $10,114. Subsequent collection was $14,601. The Go Room. The Go Room receipts for November was $3,035 compared to the same time last year for $3,350. The other parts of the report are operations of the city, the general fund, and you could go through that when you get a time.
Any questions from the council before we move on?
Yes.
Councilman Harris.
So, Mr. Stewart, so the gold run. What are we looking at in revenue and gold run right now? Year to date?
You're talking about the total revenue to this point?
Year to date. Yeah, year to date.
Okay, so the total revenue for the Gold Room was $17,384, and this is as of November 30th, 2022.
Okay. And we have $185,000 budgeted for Gold Run. I guess my question is, again, with that, again, is going to come back to the resolutions. What happened? I mean, why did we not get a resolution for that purchase? I really would like to know why. You haven't done it before.
You're talking about the
vehicle, the police
for the vehicle. So what has been happening over the years, and it would appear that there hasn't been any protocols to follow, and I'm actually putting a lot of protocols into place, and I'm hoping that the council will approve them. They're just interims for now, and I'm hoping that you'll go through, vet them, and give me your response as early as possible, because we need to get these things done. Now, I can tell you, as what has happened with the Director of Public Works, when I came into this job, there has not been anyone to advise us and to guide us and to give us historical information of what's happening in this city or on this municipality. A lot of people have information and hiding it as a way to come at us. And that is not fair. It is essential that the council, especially senior members of the council, step up and help us and work with us to give us the information we need. So given that, I'm asking all the council members, including you, Mr. Herring, as a senior member, to step up and work with the administration to get things done. Thank you.
Mr. Stewart, you came to me and you said, Mr. Herring, would it be all right if I reached out to you for information? I told you no problem at all. You never reached out to me for anything. You reached out to other council members who really don't know what they're talking about and giving you misinformation on some things. I mean, I've been more than open to you reaching out to me if you needed some information. You asked me, I said, yeah, fine. But I felt you had it under control, so I don't go into your department. I don't, if you reach out to me, fine. I have no problem answering the question for you. just like you did with constant yield and all of that, but you don't reach out to me. So, and it isn't like I said you can't. So to sit there and say that Mr. Herring, I need to give you information. I can't give you information if I don't know what you're doing. I can't give you information on anything, unless you bring it to me, unless you reach out to me.
Can I
Again,
answer?
Wait 1 second. Mr. Herring had the floor. So.
But I'm going to say this with this situation here, all of these policies that you have down here, that you want to put in place, because once again, they don't go into place until this council reviews them and says that's what we want to do. That's not the issue. We have a policy in place for purchases over $6,000, and there's no ambiguity with how it's supposed to work. So I was just asking a question. It seems like we may end up having two.
Can I answer now?
So, 1 second. In order to not prolong this discussion, so the question was what happened. You answered the question of what happened. What we do not have time for is to go back and forth. So there's another question, Mr. Herring.
Mr. President, and I'm going to tell you this. I really don't like when you do that, because if Mr. Stewart want to explain himself, he has a right to explain himself. You should not be cutting him off because you don't want to be here that long. If he needs to explain himself, let him explain himself. I would like to hear what he has to say. If it's a back and forth, then it's a back and forth. That's the way you do dialogue. That's where you find out what's going on. So I would like to hear what he has to say. He has a comment. He wants to defend himself. He has something to say. He's going to give me some pertinent information that, so be it. Cutting him off is not right.
Okay. Well, in June, if there's another council president who wants to step up and conduct meetings, have at it. As long as I'm sitting here, if you have a right to ask questions, you have a right to answer questions. Part of my difficult role is to try to manage these meetings. If I think that it's a pointless going back and forth, if you ask a question, he answered the question, and then he's repeating himself 3 or 4 times, it's not a good use of time. So therefore, as council president and a manager of the meeting, I have to step in to make sure that we don't get, tossed to the wayside of going back and forth. Like I said, you're welcome to answer your ask your questions. If you feel like your question was not answered, then he can clarify the answer. Mr. Herring, 1 second, because I'll let you finish. All I simply, interjected is, if there's more substance to your answer, then please proceed. If you're going to repeat yourself, then there's no need. And I was going to ask you, Mr. Herring, do you feel like your question was answered?
I don't know. You cut him off. I don't know what he was going to say. You cut him off.
Well,
before he even got to say anything, you cut him off. Now you're saying it's not substantive in your eyes.
No, I didn't. You cut me off before I was allowing him to finish. Because I was just going to say that if it adds to your answer, then please proceed. If you're going to repeat yourself, then there's no need to keep on repeating yourself. That is what I was going to say before you interrupted me, Mr. Herring, and I'll let you finish, and now I am finished. If you have more to add to his answer, please answer his question. If you're going to repeat yourself, please do not.
It will be a repeat because I'm saying previous protocols had to be resolved, and that's what I'm working on getting streamlined, especially when it comes to purchase of vehicles. These events happen where vehicles are ordered before I even know what's happening. The resolutions were supposed to have been done before the orders are done. So I have recently put together another set of protocols or policies to ensure that this kind of issue does not happen again. I hope that answers your question.
Actually, it doesn't, but let me say, it answers the way you think you see it, but the actual answer is the section in the charter that says nothing shall be approved over $6,000 without a resolution. It's just as simple. That means that no check can be cut, nothing can be spent without a resolution. So there's no long list of protocols or procedures that need to be put in place. It's been working that way for 50 years. So I'm not sure, it sounds like you're putting in place things to try to mitigate the fact that you just made a mistake, and that's what happened. Mistakes do happen. Like the council president said, mistakes do happen. You own up to your mistakes. But but to send out this long litany of things that need to be done, let me ask the question, because I am curious about this. How long does it take y'all to cut one invoice? Cut a check.
Cut a check.
Cut a check.
So the check, before a check can be cut, it has to go through certain processes, right? It has to go, a request is made by the requester. It goes through the city manager for approval, then comes to the treasurer to check if funds are available. If all of that is passed, then it is passed on to the accounts payable. Because at that point, the check can be cut.
How long does that, let's say you got all the paperwork and it's in your office, how long will it take you to cut that check?
If you're talking about one check, it's within 5 minutes.
Okay, because I'm looking at your list of requirements of all this other stuff, and some of these aren't realistic because we can't even get a check in a timely fashion to pay our vendors when we have events, during Glenarden Day or anything else. I know I've submitted stuff and it's been like very up to the last minute to try to get this thing, a check cut, when it's been given to you 30 days before. So you want to put these protocols in place, but then for us, for me in your way, I feel that there need to be some protocols and things put in your office because it should not take that long to cut. You should have a check run done every week. If you got an invoice, that check should be cut the following week with no problem. I've never seen checks take 2 to 3 weeks to get cut, and you only got a few checks each check run. So I've never understood that.
Is that a question?
No, it's just a statement.
Okay.
I'm done, Mr. President.
All right.
I don't want to get censored again. All right, let's go.
Thank you, Councilman Herring. All right, with that, we'll move on to citizens' comments. If you could please hold your comments to 3 minutes, that'd be great. If you're in the room and you have a comment, please raise your hand and you'll be recognized. If you're online and you have a comment, please raise your virtual hand. If you do not know how to raise your virtual hand, then you can open your mic and identify yourself, and then I'll make a note of when you can, where you're on the queue to speak. With that, the floor is open to citizens' comments. Ms. Wilson.
Good evening. I'm disappointed by your blatant disregard for citizens who really need help with a situation which they cannot get relief. You speak of something needs to be done, but you do nothing to bring about a resolve. You are only concerned about that area, the area that you live in, but not concerned about others. You have never failed to stick up for citizens where you live, which amounts to favoritism. After all, it was made clear that they put you in office. What about others in the wards that voted for you? Yet you laugh and you grin in the senior citizens' faces, pretending you are for them, trying to gain their favor. It makes me wonder if you have even traveled on the streets that we're talking about. Those council members who live in Ward 1 or who have lived in Ward 1 should be ashamed of yourselves for not trying to bring about a resolve to the citizens who have constantly complained about parking on their streets. And what's really bad is it has been stated that the streets in Woodmore are wider. It has been stated that the HOA in Woodmore has a resolve for commercial vehicles. So why is it that the citizens who really need the help cannot get the help from the council? Those members who voted no, with the exception of Mr. Herring, because the only reason he voted no on that ordinance was so he could bring it back. But you all aren't trying to resolve anything. You're not trying to do anything. Shame on you.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Is there another citizen's comment? There's none in the building. Is there any citizen who would like to speak online? Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Ms. William Rosa.
Yes, this is Rosa. I just have a couple of comments. So I've been trying to take notes during the meeting, and I hope everybody can hear me. One question I wanted to know, for those of you who live under an HOA, how did you come up with the conclusion of no commercial vehicles allowed in your neighborhoods?
I'm sorry,
you
can
don't
you?
have to answer it. It's a question. It's just something you need to sleep on. Now, I believe someone said earlier, the former chief of police, God rest his soul, he was able to get those vehicles out of the city. But now why can't the current chief of police do the same thing? And you know what you're really making me think? Now I'm shooting from the hip. You know what? You need to go back to 1960 because I really don't think that you're up on your history. You need to preserve this city, I mean. And you're not trying to do it. And I know it's one council person. I know you speak a lot, but I agree with a lot of things that you say. And they don't need to be afraid of you talking. They just need to stand up to you. Because if you're a running back or whatever you are, you're going to go after them. They need to be ready to stand up to you if you are an elected official. And you know what? Big houses don't make communities. People make communities. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Rosa. I don't think there was a question in there that you wanted answering. If I'm sorry, did you have a question that you wanted answered or no?
It's kind of rhetorical, but I want to know if the former chief of police, God rest his soul, if he could make something happen, why can't the current guy make it happen? And you know, this young man who is the public works, you have a responsibility. People hire people to do a job. They don't have to tell you everything to do because you go around and you look at things and you ask questions. You ask why or why not, and then you try to take care of it. So and then also getting on this thing about approving vehicles. Now, I think the federal government has the Anti-Deficiency Act. You can't spend money, and if you go on, you got to tell Congress why you did this. So you know better than that. You're not running a mom-pop operation. You're dealing with taxpayers' dollars. And this is honest money that we're making that's paying your salaries. So you can answer whatever question that I had. If you can answer it, it's fine with me. But I am a little just kind of disappointed in people, elected people, because what are you doing? Maybe next month, Black History Month, you're going to find out some things, and maybe it'll help you to remember. You're running a town. Somebody's going to take you over if you don't get it right.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Rosa. All right, with that, are there any other comments, questions online? All right, hearing none, the time is 10:36. This meeting is now adjourned.